All right, so we're going to dive into the 13 most profitable email hooks of all time. I actually have these in reverse order. So we're going to go through from the top all the way down. Let me make this bigger so you guys can all see it. I'm going to pull up the chat. Can everybody see this? Is it big enough? Let me know in the chat. Jared Harlan just dropping the zingers all morning. All right. So the first hook we're going to start with is the fear-mongering warning hook. You will see a lot of these in the health niche. You'll see them in the financial niche. You'll see them in the survival niche. Most of the people in those niches tend to be pretty full of anxiety. So basically the hook is really just, someone just put, can we get a definition of the hook so I know what this is? The hook is really just the unique angle or the idea that your email is about. So instead of just pitching someone directly on how to lose weight, the hook is really, what is the unique kind of angle, the theme, the idea that your email is going to be about. And the best emails usually have the best hooks. And I've just seen over and over and over again, the hooks that I'm going to share, they just continue to work. So actually, that's one good thing I will start with. All of these hooks are going to work no matter what kind of emails you're sending. So if you're sending the short kind of click driver ones and health niches, it'll work. If you're doing more personality driven ones and you're selling coaching or courses or consulting or live events, it'll work for those. If you're doing book a call funnels, if you're promoting affiliate offers, the hooks work kind of no matter what you're sending. Really, the only thing that'll be different is the little pitch part of the email and what you're actually promoting. So the hook can be used for all those things. The hooks can also be used for YouTube, Facebook ads, stuff like that. I mean, email is a great place to test that type of stuff because like what works in email usually transfers over pretty well. So yeah, the hook is really just, like I said, the angle or the idea of what that email is going to be about. So we'll start over here. The hook number 13, we're going to go through all 13 of them. The fear-mongering warning hook. Like I said, this is really just creates a lot of worry in people to get them to act and to get them to buy. And this tends to work really well when you're trying to get them to switch. So a bunch of the examples you'll see, like Gary Bencivenga has his famous olive oil one, which is this big kind of fear-mongering hook about the mafia tainting olive oil. Most people who are reading that already have olive oil. They bought it. They buy it at the grocery store. Olive oil is not a new thing to them. So in order to get them to switch over to your brand, you got to make them realize that the brand they're currently using has all these bad things going on. So you'll see a lot of these examples that I share. The fear-mongering hook is usually to get people to switch to things. In the financial niche, it's more just this kind of big fear-mongering thing of like what could possibly happen and you need to get your money out of this or you need to get your money into this, things like that. So I'll go over two of the examples that I think are really good. Like I said, the olive oil one, this is one of my favorite ones. Gary Bencivenga, who most people consider the greatest copywriter ever, wrote this. Something as boring and bland as olive oil, he has made this super, super interesting. So the email goes, don't fall victim to olive oil fraud, warns 60 Minutes TV show. And then the subject line is talking about beware of fake mafia-made olive oil, warns 60 Minutes TV show. That's a great subject line because it's got all kinds of drama, conspiracy. It's got proof, the 60 Minutes TV show, which especially to an older crowd of people in their 60s and 70s, which is a lot of the people on these lists, 60 Minutes is kind of a big deal to them. It's not going to be a big deal to someone who's like 25, but to that age group, it matters. But the whole idea of the mafia being involved in olive oil and them tainting it and selling fake olive oil is just such a great hook. I mean, this thing's been running for, I saw it at least 4 or 5 years ago, and it still runs. So it's obviously working great. So I'll read kind of this is a really long email. I'll read kind of the first part of it so you kind of get a feel for it. Did you happen to see the powerful expose in 60 Minutes about how the mafia has infiltrated the food industry, especially in olive oil? It warned of widespread mafia tampering and other serious problems in the olive oil industry. Let me give you a brief excerpt from this explosive report. Then I'll recommend an easy way to protect yourself and your family by avoiding any olive oils that are fake, tampered with, or stale. So it goes into this little part about the 60 Minutes thing, and it talks about how Italy's olive oil has been corrupted by the mafia, which is making big bucks, tampering with Italian food products in a way that could affect American consumers. It's a $16 billion a year enterprise. Olive oil fraud's gone on for the better part of 4 millennia. The bad guys introduce adulterated olive oils or mix in lower quality olive oils with extra virgin olive oil. Some of them can even pose a real danger. So they can be mixed with these cheaper seed oils. And if you or a family member are allergic to seed oil and you unknowingly consume it, the harm could be serious. The mafia tampering with it is not the only problem. The other big problem is improper storage. So he goes in this whole part that olive oil basically, unlike wine, which gets better with age, olive oil goes bad. That's kind of the whole thing he's really talking about here. And he lays out that 75 to 80% of the oil sold in the US does not meet legal grades for extra virgin olive oil. So you could be paying premium prices for extra virgin olive oil, yet getting something inferior or even tampered with. And he just lays on more proof and more proof. This is like a Gary Bencivenga staple. He was like the master at just layering proof in. So he goes into this study from 2010. UC Davis Olive Center tested all of these imported olive oils. They found that 69% of the samples they tested failed to meet the standards to be called extra virgin olive oil. And in the years since, NBC News reported fake olive oil is rampant. Wall Street Journal stated American grocery stores are awash in cheap, fake, extra virgin. Forbes has warned, here's the hard truth, the olive oil in your pantry, the one you bought for its health benefits and for some sliver of the seductive Mediterranean lifestyle is most likely a scam. Like that's just such a great proof stack there. And then he just really goes into talking about how real extra virgin olive oil is just super healthy for you and what it can do for you. It does all this, has all these health benefits. I'm not going to go into the pitch part because the pitch part is just the pitch. Really what we're focusing on here is the hook, which is usually the beginning of the email. But does everybody see how that kind of just fear mongering kind of story just sucks you in? Like it's an incredible story. I mean, obviously Gary wrote it, who's just an unbelievable copywriter. But that's just a great example of how to use this fear mongering story to get people reading your emails. So that's the first example I wanted to share of the fear mongering one. The second one is actually one I wrote. This is one I wrote back in the day for Patriot Power Greens, which was our health supplement. Very, very similar kind of idea here where I took something. So I knew our market was very similar to the olive oil one. It's 50, 60, 70-year-olds buying it. And I was trying to think of something I could compare the green juice that we were selling. And the thing that popped in my mind was V8 juice, because my grandma used to drink V8 juice every morning. One of my grandpas used to drink V8 juice every morning. And I remember that just being a big thing from my childhood. And I'm sure most people on this call, if you think about maybe your grandma or grandpa or somebody older in your life, V8 juice was probably a thing for them. That's probably the target demographic for V8 juice is people 50, 60, 70, I'm assuming. So anyways, I had this idea that all these people are drinking V8 juice. It's not actually that good for you when you actually like look at it. So I did a bunch of investigating and realized that it has like 3 times the amount of sodium as McDonald's French fries does. So to me, that was going to be the whole hook of this. It was going to be a big kind of fear, warning, controversial kind of hook. And so the subject line literally was V8 juice is worse for your heart than McDonald's French fries. And there was a question mark after it. So I like using that with the little question mark after it because it's not as definitive of a statement. It's more like I'm kind of asking that, and it piques people's curiosity a little more. So then I go into it and just really lay out the facts very clearly for people. So V8 juice has always been touted as a drink that's good for your health. Labels on the juice from a few years ago even claimed that the drink was approved as heart healthy by the American Heart Association. But when you take a closer look at the V8 nutrition label, it tells a completely different story. Texas doctor reveals the hidden truth about V8 juice. For example, did you know a single 8-ounce glass of V8 juice contains 650 milligrams of sodium? That means an 8-ounce glass of V8 juice contains nearly 300% more sodium than a medium order of McDonald's French fries. Can you believe that? How on earth can 650 milligrams of sodium be considered heart healthy? After discovering this, I sought out a world-renowned doctor to get a second opinion. Dr. Lane Sebring, a highly respected medical doctor and board member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, told me the truth about drinks like V8 juice. So he basically goes in and says, processed sodium, like the kind found in V8, is more damaging to your heart than foods like red meat, butter, or even eggs. I highly recommend that my patients stay away from drinks like V8 juice. And this is especially true if those patients are struggling with blood pressure, cholesterol, or blood sugar problems. Then we really just go into the pitch, talking about how V8 juice is not all it's cracked up to be. And then we discovered this healthier drink to replace V8 juice. And it's one that's being used by members of the U.S. Coast Guard. And it's helping older people in the military stay in shape with it. Some of the ingredients are even praised by institutions like Harvard and Mayo Clinic, blah, 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 blah. And that is when we promote the Patriot Power Greens. So no, Dr. Sebring was the actual creator, endorser, kind of co-created it with us. And then he was more the endorser, the face of the drink. So we just used him in the email. So that's really the whole angle on this one. Like I said, just taps into that kind of fear mongering, conspiracy even. That's kind of the whole idea around this hook. So I'll take some questions if you guys got any questions on hook number 13, like I said, which is the fear mongering, warning, conspiracy kind of hook. Sean said, why is this 13th hook? Are you showing the least effective among all the best hooks? Yeah, some of the ones like 1 through 5 tend to be the ones that I rely on the most. The ones like 13 through 8, it's not that they aren't effective. They just tend to be a little more inconsistent. Like sometimes they can absolutely crush and sometimes they might not do as well. So the ones more towards the beginning, which I'll show you at the end, 1 through 5, are the ones that just overall tend to consistently perform better. Alberto said, would you rather mention the competitor or just say most X companies? Well, I mean, like for this one, it was crucial that we mentioned V8 juice. Like if we just said some like tomato juice drink, it would not be anywhere near as effective. Eddie said, how much consideration do you place into the niche when deciding which hook to use for a promotion? I don't really. Almost all of these hooks can be used in pretty much every niche out there. So they're very universal. Peter said, how do you keep the negativity to affect your offer too? The negativity is not going to affect your offer. I mean, you're not talking bad about your stuff. So it shouldn't have any effect on your offer. So I didn't say this one works better with health-based offers. I just said you see it a lot with health-based offers. You also see it with like I said, survival. You'll see it a lot. You'll see it in financial. I mean, you could do this in pretty much any niche out there. So gardening, cooking, food, personal development. I mean, they really work over and over again. Michelle said, do you have an anger hook and does that perform on the lower end like this 13 hook? Asking because my client said people don't buy from a place of anger because her product is a personal growth product. I mean, tapping into anger works really, really well if you have, yeah, I mean, if there's people that are angry about something and you just kind of resonate with that anger. I don't have a specific anger hook in here, but like something like the survival or the financial niche, those are really just based on a lot of the feelings they have is anger. So tapping into that anger is really powerful. If I was going to promote a new product and I wanted to use this hook, how would you start? I would find some type of story, like I just showed you those two. I would find some type of story or some type of thing to warn about that I know my market is very familiar with. So the V8 juice is a good example. The olive oil is basically showing them something that they did not understand because they're just buying regular olive oil from the grocery store and they're thinking it's healthy. And now I'm showing them that that's not true. So you gotta, it all kind of comes from the research. You have to do the research to find something that, and then this is more of that thing where if you're doing the research, you'll find something like this and it'll pop out. It's less like you're not just like going in saying, okay, I'm gonna do a fear mongering hook. Now where can I find it? It's more like you're doing the research and then something stands out. You're like, ooh, that would make a great email. Christy said, do you have stats for these hooks in markets outside the US? Most of the email list I promote on are a mix of US and international. So usually about 60% US and 40% international. So yes, they will work in the international markets as well. Yeah, Tom, I do the research first and then figure it out. Bridget said, does the call to action after the PS line lead to the same place? It goes to the same page. Yep. Guys, when you're typing in the chat, make sure you have it set to everyone and not host and panelist. Otherwise, not everybody can see what you're putting in the chat. Stephanie said, so if I were a graphic designer that is sharing why branding is important and how DIY falls flat, could you that as the competitor? I'm not sure what you're asking, Stephanie. I mean, you could make you could do a fear mongering kind of story of somebody who tried to go DIY and how it ruined their brand and their business fell apart, that type of thing. That would work perfectly fine for that kind of scenario. Yep. I mean, everybody keeps asking if this works for this specific. All these emails work for like hooks are hooks. They're all based on human psychology. So just because you're in one niche doesn't mean they're not going to work. All right, so we're gonna move on. So that was the first one. Like I said, there's more examples in here, and you guys will be able to go over that when I send you the PDF. But I'm gonna go over 2 in each section on this call, so that way we can get through the whole thing in about 2.5 hours and not be on here for 10 hours. So hook number 12, big results with very little effort. So the goal here is you're really trying to appeal to people's greed. People want the results and they want the transformation and they want the end result, but they don't want to do the work. So we want to lose 50 pounds, but we don't want to go to the gym and we don't want to eat rice and chicken all day. We want to get the girl we've always wanted, but we don't want to fix ourselves or we don't want to go up and talk to her at the bar. That's pretty much how everyone operates. We want the big results, but we don't want to do the work. So if you can show a way that they can get big results with very little effort on their part, that's going to sell very, very, very well. So I'll show you a couple examples. This is one that I sent to my list. Subject line, $5,100 per hour writing emails. So that's a version of this right there, just in the subject line. So the fact that you can make $5,100 an hour writing an email is like, oh shit. I mean, that sounds great. That's way better than working a real job or doing something else. So take a look at these commissions I was paid for writing emails for Stefan Georgi's RMBC copywriting course. $32,500 paid in 2020, $38,500 paid in 2021, $28,100 paid in 2022. So in total, Stefan paid me $99,100, which is a lot of money. But here's what's really interesting about this. I didn't do anything to make this money besides write a few emails to my list. For example, the last promo I did for Stefan's course, I wrote a total of 8 emails to my list. And those emails took me around 5.5 hours to write. So for 5.5 hours of work, I was paid $28,100. Think about that. I was paid $5,109 per hour to sit at my kitchen table and write emails. So that's tapping into the big, get the results with very little effort. Getting paid $5,100 per hour to sit at my kitchen table and write emails. That's like dream scenario for anyone. So then I go in and just share a little reason why that happened. So I'm like, it's all possible because of the simple personality-driven emails I write to my list. That's how I make this kind of money. It's because of the stories I share, the bond I have with my readers. And if that piques your interest, blah, 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 then I go into the pitch that I'm going to teach you how to write this. So to come back to it, like I said, the whole angle, the whole hook of this is how you can get these big results with very little effort. So that was a kind of make money one. This one is a golf example. So somebody who's a golfer wants to be better at golf, wants to hit their drives further, wants to impress all their friends. They don't want to sit at the driving range for 2 hours a day to do it. They just want to get better. So the subject line on this one, 30 yards longer in only 10 minutes. People have been reaching out and asking if easy tempo technique is right for them. So some don't believe their swing speed, strength, and golf game is good enough to worry about tempo. Wrong. If you want to hit the ball further, more consistently, your tempo is the first thing to fix. Because once you have easy tempo, power, accuracy, distance, and consistency fall into place. Like Will L., a 14 handicap who was hitting the ball 30 yards longer within 10 minutes. So there it is again, tapping into the big results with very little effort. He's hitting the ball 30 yards longer within 10 minutes. They even got a video that's going to demonstrate that. That's why Sir Nick calls tempo the glue that holds your swing together. It doesn't matter whether you're on the course 5 times a week, 5 times a month, 5 times a year, or 5 times a decade. Curing erratic tempo once and for all can transform your golf game overnight, and any old tempo drills won't do it, though. If you're really serious about adding an extra 15 to 25 yards of average driving distance, hitting 10 to 13 fairways around, and never folding under pressure again, easy tempo technique can make that happen fast. Honestly, that email is not the greatest like written email. It's kind of clunky and the copy on it, decent, but it really does tap into that, get the big result that you want with very little effort. So they could definitely have hit on it more and like really emphasize this. Like they could have just honestly told Will's story more often. Like that's probably how I would actually written it. Like if you had more info on Will's story, that probably would have been a more powerful email of this guy hitting it 30 yards longer within 10 minutes. I think that would have done really well, but you kind of get the idea of how to use this hook. All right. So questions on the big results with very little effort hook. I showed you 2 examples. I showed you the one for my email list and then the golf one. Gabe said, question about the embedded video. We don't want the buyer to leave the email. So how do we have them see the video without? So yeah, that video just, if you click that video, it just goes to the sales page, which is where you want people to go. Yeah, you can't watch a video in an email. So something like, where was the video? So yeah, so that video is literally just to get people to click on it, and then it's going to go to what I'm assuming is a VSL that's selling them on the product that they're pitching. Philip said, would you need your own proof with this, or could you pull proof some other sources to prove your point? I mean, if you have your own proof, which could be your personal story, it could be customers of yours, that's always the best. If you have other proof, I mean, you need some type of proof. So as much proof as you can get, layer it on there. But you kind of got to work with what you got. So if you don't have any at your fingertips, if you don't have personal proof, then yeah, try to do customer success stories, things like that. Adam said, how do you think about results claims that are too big, i.e. trigger skepticism? They're always going to be the biggest, I mean, making the big claim. So the big thing with claims is they need to seem achievable. So like all the people that sell courses on how to become like a millionaire in a year, those tend to do really bad because your average person just doesn't even think that's possible. But if you change the angle of it and you're like, how to make $500 over a weekend, that seems a lot more possible for most people. So you'll actually get a lot more buyers if you can make your claims a little more believable. And then if you back up those claims with even more proof of just regular, normal people being able to do it, that's going to get you a ton of buyers. How do you avoid too good to be true? Lots of proof. Honestly, if you're just making the claim, you don't have any proof to back it up, people are going to think it's too good to be true. But yeah, you need lots of proof to back it up. When you say that an email becomes a winner and keeps running, what do you mean? Do you mean to keep on sending the same email to the same audience monthly, or does it become a part of a welcome automation? It tends to vary between lists because different lists operate differently. If you're promoting, let's say like an affiliate offer and it does really well, you might promote that same thing the next week. You might promote it again like the week after, and it just continues to do well. You might take that email then and use it on other lists where like you would buy email ads on other lists. So that's kind of what I mean by it keeps running. So like I wrote a bunch of really good emails that worked on cold email lists where we were just buying traffic on. And those ran for 6 months to a year where they were just bringing us new buyers every single day. Cause we just kept doing buys on these email lists. That's kind of what I mean by running it. All right, cool. Done with the first 2. How's this been so far for you guys? We've gone over 2 of them. Are you getting some insights? Gabe said, great. Love it. Amazing. Pretty good. Awesome. Cool. We'll keep rolling. So number 11 is the direct pitch. This one is probably one of the least sexy ones involved in here, but in a lot of situations, it works really well. So in my experience, the direct pitch tends to work best when you're offering something for free. So you'll see a lot of free plus shipping offers that use a direct pitch. If you're doing a sale, a direct pitch tends to work really well. If you're offering a payment plan, A lot of those are direct pitches and those work really well. That actually was the best performing email of the launch for this launch was the payment plan email. And I'll show you that in here. Or if you simply just have a really good relationship with your list and you're offering something that they want, that can work really well too. So like when Dan Ferrari and I did, we did a copywriting retreat in Mexico last December. I sent out an email to the list about it. There was no like mega story or anything. Like it was pretty direct, just like, hey, we're doing this if you want a spot. And like all the spots got snapped up really, really quickly. So the direct pitch can work really well. I'm gonna show you a couple different examples of this one. This first one is in the gardening and health niche. This is for a free plus shipping offer. So as I said, free plus shipping is one of the main things you'll see these direct ones being used for. The subject line on this is really interesting. It was shipment pending. So, hi friend, we're celebrating the new release of my newest hit book, Grow Your Own Pharmacy, 51 Healing Plants and How to Use Them. Today, we set aside 100 hardcover full color copies to be snatched up for free, but only to the first 100 people who take us up on this incredibly limited offer. Inside this brand new medicinal herb and plant guidebook, you'll discover how to easily grow your very own at-home personal pharmacy. So you can stockpile your medicine cabinet full of ready-to-use, powerful, and natural herbal remedies. Plus, inside this full 300-page book, we uncover for you in brilliant detail. We got a bunch of benefits. Then it goes into the little pitch. If you want one, you'll have to act fast. All you have to do is click here and be one of the first 100 people to confirm your shipping details. You also have to simply cover a small amount for shipping and handling. Once that's done, your free book will be shipped out to you right away. And you'll have your very own step-by-step comprehensive handbook that's super easy to follow and quickly gets you ready, set up, and grow in no time at all. No strings attached. You won't have any forced subscription. It's that simple. Cover a small shipping and handling fee and you get this for free. That's the whole email. So like I said, pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward email. You see these a lot, like I said, in free plus shipping offers. They tend to work. You'll see them a lot on a bunch of different affiliates will use them. Oh, apparently Scott wrote this, who's on the call. Awesome. Nice. Good job, Scott. But yeah, these tend to work over and over. A lot of the people that do free plus shipping, that's like their main offer that brings people on their list, they just rinse and repeat this kind of email over and over again with each new offer they put out. So it's a very direct kind of pitch. I'll give you another example here. This is the payment plan one from the launch for this offer that you guys are on. Like I said, this was out of all the emails I sent in this whole launch, this was the best performing one. And that's for multiple reasons. One, it was on the last day of the launch. The last day of the launch is always the best day in terms of sales. And also there was a big kind of buildup because I didn't offer the payment plan at all leading up to this. And I got a bunch of questions about it throughout the course of the launch. So I got probably 6 or 7 people emailing me asking if there would be a payment plan. And so I know that if there's 6 or 7 people asking about it, there's probably 10 times that many that are thinking about it and wishing there was a payment plan. So I decided to add the payment plan on the last day. And that was a really good decision because the last day just really crushed for me. But the email in general was just super straightforward. Subject line literally was need a payment plan. So I said, over the weekend, a few people hit me up to see if I could offer a payment plan on the 13 email hooks training I'm doing tomorrow. So this morning I had James, my developer, add a payment plan option for you. So instead of paying $197 up front, you can now pay just $99 today and then pay the other $99 in a month. This way it's easier on your cash flow and you can still be part of the training without having to pony up the full price today. So if you want to take advantage of the $99 payment plan, simply head over to the special payment page and get signed up here. As a reminder, today's the last day to sign up because the training takes place tomorrow. So you need to sign up before midnight tonight if you want to be a part of it. Now, this part is really important. I think I've seen a lot of people do an email like this and they would end it there. One of the things that I'm always very cognizant of is most people reading this may not have read all the other emails I had sent in the launch. So you do not want to assume that they have been reading all the other emails and they have an idea of what's going on. So right after that part, I put this little kind of connector sentence where I'm like, if you somehow missed all the other emails I sent you about the training and you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, here's all the details. And then I just pitch them again. I just pitch them again on this, on the training. So I give like the full, basically a full pitch for it in case they, so you have to keep in mind, like a lot of these people reading it did not see any of the other emails. So if they just open this one, I want them to be able to understand exactly what's going on and them to be able to buy just from that email. So that's a really important point on these kind of last minute emails. So that was like I said, a very direct offer. I'm not going to go through the pitch part because that's kind of boilerplate. There's one more direct one. Actually, I'll show you the one that I sent for me and Dan Ferrari. So subject line, 1 spot left to join me and Dan in Sayulita. Just a heads up, I'm hosting a small copywriting retreat next month with Dan Ferrari in the beautiful town of Sayulita, Mexico. If you don't know Dan, he's one of the top 5 copywriters in the world today. He's written winning blockbuster copy in every niche from financial to health to biz op to dating to fitness and more. And while all that is pretty cool, what's even cooler is that on top of his copywriting prowess, Dan is also a badass surfer, which is why him and I are putting on this retreat in the surf town of Sayulita. We rented a massive villa right near the beach, and we'll be staying at the villa along with the 6 attendees for the retreat. Our plan is to have breakfast together each morning, get some surfing in, get a massage on the beach. And then in the afternoon, we'll spend a few hours working with you one-on-one, teaching you some of our advanced copywriting secrets. This will be an intimate experience. You'll be living in the same house as us. We'll be eating dinner together each night with a private chef cooking for the whole group. So the environment is tended to create deep conversations about copy, making more money, creating home run offers, beating controls, and a whole lot more. My bet is that you'll easily add another 6 figures to your income if you attend this retreat. So if that appeals to you and you want to join us, here's the deal. As of last week, we officially sold all 6 spots for the retreat. We didn't promote it to our list or talk about it in public. We simply reached out to a few copywriters who we thought would be a good fit, and they snapped up the 6 spots. However, one of the attendees just let us know that he has another engagement and he's not able to make it, which means we now have an open spot. So that was the entire thing. And then people went to a Google Doc to read more about it. And then they went to the application page and applied to attend the retreat. So that was just like a super direct pitch. There really wasn't any other angle. It was more like it's intended to go to people who are already pretty high level, because that's who's going to appeal to people who already know Dan, know me, and understand the value of spending a week with us. That's really what it was all about. And that one worked great. So any questions on the direct pitch before we move on to the next one? Sean said, did you intentionally put this email as the last or decided to add the payment plan based on feedback? Yeah, so that payment plan email I was talking about, that was really just based on feedback throughout the launch. So one of the things, when you're doing a launch or you're doing a multi-day sale, one of the things is that it's really this living, breathing thing, and you kind of got to go with the flow and see what people are saying and what they're asking questions about. Because there's going to be things that come up. There'll be objections that pop up and things that prevent people from buying that you're not aware of. And for me, for this one, the payment plan was definitely one, which in my head, I didn't like, it's a $197 course. So I definitely understand the payment plan thing with like $1,000 course. So to me, I didn't think it would be an issue with a $197 course, but it came off enough in enough emails that I was like, I should definitely offer the payment plan. And it did great. So yeah, you got to be adaptable, especially if you're doing any type of like launch or multi-day sale, that type of thing. All right. So we got 3 of them done. Let's let's roll into hook number 12, or sorry, hook number 10, the drama gossip hook. This one's really fun. So people love drama and gossip. Think about all the reality TV shows, gossip magazines, gossip websites, Instagram accounts that just suck people in all day, every day. We are just kind of like naturally inclined to gossip and be attracted to drama. So if you can tap into that in your emails, you'll get huge open rates and you'll end up making a bunch of sales. So I'm gonna show you a couple of examples here. The first one is definitely a drama one. I wrote this one for Patriot Power Greens back in the day. The subject line is outraged seniors demand the military release new Fountain of Youth drink. So basically the story behind this was when we created Patriot Power Greens, the first people that we gave it to test it was this Coast Guard unit in San Diego. And basically a bunch of the guys in the unit who used it were getting good results with it. One of the things we noticed was a lot of the older guys in the group were starting to do a lot better on their personal training times and all that. So I decided right away, I was like, oh, that's a great hook. We can really play into that. And so we weren't selling this anywhere. Nobody else could buy it. So I basically came up with this hook that, and after a while, we did have people asking us to, like, people were emailing us who their friends were the people in the Coast Guard unit using it and asking if they could buy it. It wasn't a ton of people. It was like 2 people, but that was enough to create kind of a story out of it. And I basically came up with this whole drama kind of story of the outraged seniors demand that the Coast Guard release new Fountain of Youth drink. So it's really written kind of like a newspaper article. So San Diego, California, in most units of the military, the younger guys usually dominate the older guys in physical fitness tests. But for one U.S. Coast Guard unit in San Diego, the exact opposite is happening. Older Coast Guardsmen that once struggled to keep up with the younger guys in their unit are now making mincemeat out of the young bucks in head-to-head physical fitness tests. How is this possible? The old guys in this Coast Guard unit have been part of a secret test group for a doctor-formulated Fountain of Youth drink. This Fountain of Youth drink has been so effective for many of the older soldiers that it's made their achy joints, stiff muscles, and lack of energy a thing of the past. So then I go into, I do a couple, there's one testimonial here, and then we talk about stuff with the doctor. So Dr. Lane Sebring, he used to be a veteran as well, so I tapped into that. Basically said he wanted to create something special that could give our troops more energy, more stamina, and better focus while they fight for our country. You may have seen Dr. Sebring's anti-aging treatments on Fox News or read about them on NPR. So what's actually in this secret anti-aging drink? Dr. Sebring was nice enough to share some information with me about the secret drink that you can read right here. Many of the older guys in the Coast Guard and Army Reserve swear by this drink to help them keep up with the young bucks in their unit. What do they know that you don't? I'll reveal their secret right there. By the way, I wrote this email like 7 or 8 years ago, and like reading it now, I'm like, oh, I kind of like cringe that some of the copy's not great. It's a little clunky. But it's a good thing. Like when you look back, your copy should improve over 7 years span. So, but overall, the kind of big thing I want you to take away is the drama. This is a story that's all about drama. And as I said, the drama hook, people are just addicted to drama. So anytime you can kind of use that hook, it works really well. I'll share another example here. Actually, I'll share all 3 examples of this one because they're pretty short. This is one I sent. This is actually a really cool one. I sent this to a portion of my list that had not opened an email in about 3 months. So this was to get them to open an email, to get re-engaged, and so they start reading more of my emails. So I sent it to, I can't remember how many people, it was like 3,000 people. The subject line was addressing a recent rumor about me. And then I changed the from name. Instead of being from Justin Goff, it was just JG. So they didn't know who it was actually from. So you just see in your inbox, JG addressing a recent rumor about me. That is just like straight gossip and drama and just juicy gossip is just emanating from that subject line. So the story with it is recently a rumor about me started spreading in a certain Facebook group with numerous people saying I quit copywriting. Some people said I retired. Another person said I sold all my possessions and moved to Peru. So I want to clear the air. I, Justin Goff, did not quit copywriting. I'm still writing copy every single day, and I'm still creating courses on things like list building, email copy, and list monetization. So I haven't gone anywhere. However, after selling Copy Accelerator last July, I have cut back my hours significantly. Most days I'm working just an hour or two a day. And despite working less, I'm still pulling in around 60 to 80K a month. So I've been loving the new semi-retired life. It's a lot more fun, a lot less stressful. Plus, it's opened me up creatively to put together a few things I've wanted to do for a while. One of those things is I just put together a 16-page list building blueprint that I recently wrote that I'm giving away for free. So this is basically the pitch. I'm giving them this free blueprint. There's actually a couple links in the blueprint to go buy the course. So people ended up going through and buying the course. This one really wasn't totally about making sales. It was much more just about re-engaging these people who hadn't opened an email from me. What's interesting is these people had not opened an email from me in 90 days, and I got like a 33% open rate on this email. So really good open rate for considering most of these people I would have thought were just dead leads by that point. So that re-engaged probably like, I think it was like 1,200 people who are now more active and more reading a bunch of the emails that I send out. But the big thing here I want you guys to take away here is the gossip. This is definitely a straight gossip angle. The subject line again was addressing a recent rumor about me. I played off this exact same one here that I sent a few years ago. The subject line, why I hate Ian Stanley. That one got great open rates. Most of the people on my list know of Ian. They're probably on his list. They've at least heard of him. So when I'm sending something like that, that immediately is just triggering gossip, drama, controversy. All of those alarm bells are going off and people kind of have to open it. And it actually tied in really well with this email and it made a ton of sales. So I go, I have to get this off my chest, even if it pisses Ian off. Here's the story. A few years ago, when I had a big email list of around 320,000 people, I ran into the problem of our emails always going to the promotions tab in Google. Basically, 3 out of every 5 emails I wrote went to promotions, which is not good because the revenue on those emails would always be 30 to 40% lower than the ones that hit the primary inbox. So we were losing like $5,000 or more per email when we hit the promotions folder. Obviously, this pissed me off. Instead of just settling for the promotions folder, I hired a deliverability consultant to help me out. And he wasn't cheap. I had to fork over $8,500 for his advice, but he came highly recommended from a friend who had worked with him. So then I go into the whole story. Basically, this guy walks us through everything. He shows me what I need to do to get in the primary folder. He showed me how to use seed accounts, and it worked like a charm. So super happy. I started hitting the primary inbox again. Our email revenue went way up. All of this was great. And then I go, but nevertheless, I'm still pissed at Ian about this. Why? Because Ian just recently put out a product with Andrew Clark, who's probably the #1 email deliverability expert in the world, about how to get out of the Gmail promotions tab. I actually bought the course myself. And after I went through it, it dawned on me that him and Andrew are teaching the exact same thing that I paid $8,500 for. Literally, it's the same process, except they're charging $99 for this, and I paid $8,500 for it. So that's why I'm pissed. Basically, that was the whole angle of it. And that, like I said, that email crushed because it got a ton of opens because the subject line of why I hate Ian Stanley just tickles everyone's kind of gossip and drama button. And you kind of just have to open it. Any questions on the gossip drama hook and how to use that before we move on? Britt Ellsworth said, have you seen this play out well for e-commerce? Yeah, there's actually a good amount of e-commerce people now that are switching to more kind of story-based, personality-based emails that I've seen. And they're doing really, really well with it, much better than the typical kind of graphic-y heavy e-commerce style stuff. So yeah, I have seen that working really well. Nancy said, are the names of these emails the same as in your promo emails to us? No, they actually are not. I changed a few of them to make a lot of them honestly in here are kind of like boring. And this is what I just kind of call them in my head. So a lot of them I try to make them a little sexier in the promo. But they're all the same. They're just some of them have different names. Is there anything you use to specifically to amp up the drama? I mean, really, you're trying to. It's kind of like David Deutsch calls it romancing the story. Like if you find the little thing that where the drama is, drama is usually with like conflict. It'll come from conflict. So anytime there's conflict, so like I did one of the emails I did was addressing Stefan Georgi's recent Facebook post. That is a lot of drama because people think I'm going to like call him out, think I'm going to say something bad about Stefan, and that actually wasn't what the email was about at all. But it got crazy good open rates simply from that subject line. The drama, yeah, is really just you usually got to find a nugget of drama or controversy in there, and you just kind of play it up a little more. That's probably the best way to describe it. Because in most situations, it's probably not a huge deal, but you just got to make it seem like a bigger deal than it is. Is it possible to combine different hooks on the same email? If so, what are the examples? Yes, definitely. You'll actually see that as I go through this. A lot of these will have kind of elements of other hooks. So they're not all just like one very straightforward hook. Yeah, a lot of them will have elements of different hooks. Sean said, for the drama hook, would it be better to create drama or point out something that you know would trigger people? I mean, drama is just very entertaining and people will keep reading because they want to know what happens. So I tend to do that most of the time. You can do controversy that's going to trigger people, like writing about Donald Trump or writing about Elon Musk. Like I have some examples of those later on. I'll point those out to you later on, but you can kind of do that as well. I tend to be more of a fan of just kind of playing up the drama. Bridget said, do you know any good resources, role models who can share great tips on e-commerce, email copywriting, or do you talk about this too? No, it's not really a big focus of mine. I know Chris Orzakowski does a lot of e-commerce stuff. Might want to check into his stuff. Do you ever put the reader as the subject of the drama? A la down throttle, strengths, weaknesses. Put the reader as the subject of the drama. No, usually when I do drama stuff, I'll tell a story about someone or myself. That's usually what I do. In general, do angles need to be more amped up to make it more exciting? Yeah, you want to try to make it as interesting as possible. So you can find little nuggets of drama and controversy and just kind of play them up. Robert said, I would love if you could mention which of these may be most suitable for selling SaaS products, either B2B or B2C, and how to adapt those to a more businessy market. I think if I was going to try to do a more kind of professional, like style email, I would 100% just use success stories probably over and over again. And then I would also do some kind of like contrarian emails, which I'm going to show you later in this. I would probably focus on those. Matt said we go through 4 of these in 1 hour. Yes, looking like a 3-hour call. Yeah. All right, we'll get rolling. Some of these other ones will be a little shorter. Hook number 9, the curiosity hook. So this one's really meant to stir up a ton of curiosity. So you basically tease all kinds of benefits. You really want to back those benefits up with proof and credibility. That's a huge, huge important point in terms of these teasing curiosity emails. If you just tease benefits with no proof and credibility behind them, it's really hard to believe them. The big thing with curiosity ones also is you can get a ton of clicks. And if you're sending them to a VSL that does a really good job of selling, simply just getting more people to that VSL is going to make you way more sales. So they tend to work really well for that. So I'll show you a couple really good examples of this. Here's one from the financial subject line, a 10,000% dividend. Have you seen this strange oil investment? It's not a stock, bond, or private company. It has no age requirements. You do not need to be accredited to participate. And you can get in for as little as $25. Yet this secret is so powerful that one man used it to build a $100,000 income stream from just $1,000. And he was collecting this income even 50 years later. That's like earning a 10,000% dividend year after year. In short, this is easily the #1 oil play for 2023 and beyond. My short presentation reveals everything. We've got a big clickable picture here. I would probably have a play button on that to make it even more enticing to get them to click through. But this is the power of a kind of curiosity teasing. It's just like very blind. It's teasing a lot of benefits, teasing what it isn't. And it has like, shows you the big end result. This guy's built a $100,000 income stream from just $1,000. It really doesn't tell you much about what it is. It's more just to get you to click. So that's what the teasing kind of curiosity emails are all about. Here's one from the health niche. This is for a vision offer. So subject line, reverse blurry vision with this ? This eyesight tee is helping seniors with weak vision see 20/20 again. It can help you read without glasses, watch TV without straining, or even drive at night with no road glare. It sounds crazy, but researchers at the University of California found this tee can repair your eye lens in as little as a few days, which is great news for seniors who struggle with blurry near distance, far distance, and low light vision. Already, this eyesight tee has helped over 9,000 men and women slam the brakes on vision decline, regardless of age or how bad their eyes currently are. Find out what this eyesight tee is and how to make it at home in seconds. That's a great, great teasing kind of curiosity email. Tons and tons of benefits going on. Talk about help you read without glasses, watch TV without straining, drive at night with no road glare. They back it with a bunch of proof with the University of California, show you more benefits and who it's going to work for. And then more proof that it's already helped 9,000 men and women, blah, 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 blah. And I really like this little thing about how you can make it at home in seconds. That adds just a little more curiosity to get you to click through. But yeah, that's a great, great curiosity kind of teasing email. This one is another really popular one. You see a lot in the health niche. So subject line, quiz, which nut heals men's prostates? According to a top NYU urologist, one of the following nuts can reverse men's pee problems. Can you guess which it is? And it's got this picture, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to click on which one you think it is. It says, click on the image you think is right. Over 19 clinical studies show that an extract of this nut can help you reduce constant urge to go by over 30%, fully empty your bladder, relieve nighttime peeing, kiss goodbye to embarrassing pee leaks, strengthen your prostate and pee like a racehorse. Find out the #1 nut for reversing men's urinary issues by clicking right here. These things, like I said, these kind of quizzes are super curiosity based. They'll get a lot of clicks. And for a lot of these markets, they'll do really, really well. So those are the curiosity emails. let's do some questions on those. If anybody's got questions on the kind of curiosity teaser emails. Gabe said, when you're coming up with specific bullet point benefits for topics that you're not all that familiar on, what do you do? Yes. You should not be writing an email if you're not familiar on the topic. You're putting the cart before the horse. So before you even write an email, you should be doing research so that you have an idea of what you should be writing about. If you sit down to write an email and you don't know any of the topics, or you don't know the benefits, or you don't know the pain points, you're never going to be able to write an email that actually converts. So step one is always research. Yeah, that is step one of writing copy for ads, for emails, for sales pages. Step one is always research and understanding the market and who you're writing to. Sam said the quiz is really interesting. Is it just one image that links to the sales page no matter which one they click on? Yep. It's just one big image and it all goes to the sales page. Any other questions on the curiosity one? Homer said, can the gossip hook break rapport with your list? Because the example you showed us with Ian Stanley was about making people think you actually hate him. But if you do this type of trick over and over again, we'll eventually, your opening was that. I mean, I think it was pretty obvious from that email that it was a joke, that I don't actually hate Ian Stanley. It was all kind of in fun. Maybe, I don't know, maybe if English is not your first language, you might not have got the joke, or if you have different forms of humor in another country, but the large majority of people reading that would understand that it was a joke. Mario said at the end, can you cure the curiosity for the hook acronyms? They were so good and I got to know them. You'll see, honestly, you'll see most of them in the PDF. A lot of them are just like, just shortened versions of what I'm teaching in here. All right, hook number 8, tap into a popular person or a hot topic. So this, I used one of these in the launch here where I talked about Mr. Beast. That email did really, really well. The hook really here is meant to just piggyback on people and things that are on people's minds. So this could be niche specific. It can also be people that is just kind of popular in the zeitgeist in general. Whatever is kind of on people's minds in your niche, whether that is a certain topic, certain person, if you can tap into that, especially in the subject line and then in the hook, so the email idea, you're going to get a bunch of opens. So I'll show you a couple examples here. The one I did on Mr. Beast. So for those who don't know, Mr. Beast, he's like the most popular guy on YouTube. He's got like 200 million YouTube subscribers. And I basically just told this story. So Mr. Beast email advice that can make you a lot of dough. So I told the story of how Mr. Beast was on Joe Rogan's podcast last year, and he dished out some incredible insights that can make you more money with your emails. I give the whole story where he was telling Joe how to get more views on YouTube videos. And he said, it's not about the editing. It's not about the length of the video. It's not about what your set looks like. All that stuff plays a minor role. What really matters for getting views is the idea or the hook that you use in the video. That's the most important part. And he said most YouTubers could get 3 times the number of views they're getting if they simply came up with better hooks for their videos. That's how important the hook is. It's the number one thing that matters. And then I just relate that to email copy, because it's the same thing with email copy. I was like, the hook's the most important part of an email. It's more important than the writing and even the subject line. And then I show an example of this to really prove it and drive home the point. I said in the launch I did earlier this year for how to write Justin style emails, I sent both of the following emails: how to easily be famous in your niche, how much I made from January to April writing Justin style emails. The first email, the famous one, brought in $1,186. The second email, how much I made, brought in $2,841. So the second email brought in 2.4 times as many sales as the first one. Why? Well, it wasn't the quality of the copy because I wrote both emails. It also wasn't the subject line. Both emails got over a 50% open rate. So why'd the second one do better? Simple. It had a better hook. The second email used a proven and tested hook that has crushed for me over and over again in launches. I call it the POTP hook, which actually stands for pour on the proof. And I'm going to show you some examples of that later. So I simply used it again and it raked in a ton of sales. And then I go basically into the pitch for getting you guys on this call. So that's a good example, but that all started with tapping into and just piggybacking on Mr. Beast's name because he's a very well-known person in our space. Another example, one of my favorite ones of this is one Stefan Georgi wrote, and it's from the health niche. The subject line was Donald Trump got high. So this is going to a bunch of email lists that are usually a lot of like conservative libertarian people is where they were promoting it. So that subject line is going to get huge open rates from that type of person. So it starts with, is the president high? I remember hearing one of my colleagues asking this question back in 2018. The president had just signed the 2018 Farm Bill legalizing CBD. Many health experts were shocked because nobody could say for certain if CBD actually worked. We'd all heard the supposed benefits. Your nagging pain will dissolve, your best night of sleep ever. You'll begin experiencing a deep feeling of relaxation and well-being. That's what they said. But when we actually tried CBD from countless companies who were selling it, it never seemed to bring us any real results. Were you the same way? If so, I get it. But here's the thing none of us knew back in 2018, and most people still don't know about CBD in 2022. There's an obvious reason why 98% of CBD products on the market don't seem to work. What is it? CBD needs to go through one final step in the manufacturing process to actually be absorbed by our bodies. Skip this step and CBD is useless. The problem is this final step requires a quantum technology that was developed by an MIT professor in a state-of-the-art lab. Virtually no CBD companies are using it, even though unless you do this one thing, you'll never get the true benefits of CBD. Click here now to find the missing step that can make CBD finally worth making every single day. Yes, trust me, using CBD that's gone through this one single step leads to a night and day difference. It's incredible how good you can feel, but you need to do this one thing before taking CBD. Okay, so Bridget just put a question in. How do you find such great stories and news like this? This one is much more, I don't know exactly how Stefan came up with this, but how I would come up with it and how I think he probably came up with it is he knew the market that this was going to, which was all these conservative email lists. So he started with that. He started with who are these people tapped into? What do they care about? What are they thinking about? And it was just very obvious Donald Trump is going to get more eyeballs than anything else. And so Stefan probably thought of a way. He's like, all right, how can I tie in Donald Trump with this CBD offer? It seems like this huge stretch and this huge kind of like gap to kind of cross to mend those two things together. But he found a great way to do it. Literally, he was just talking about how he legalized the Farm Bill. And one of his colleagues saying, is the president high? Like, I highly doubt somebody Stefan knew actually said, is the president high? And like that actually happened. That was his way of kind of joining together Donald Trump and CBD. So he had to find a connector to make it work. That's really how a lot of these start, is you really just focus on the who that it's going to and get really clear on what is on their mind, what they're thinking about, what's going to get opens from them, and then how do you connect it to what you really want to sell at the end. Leo said, do you see a relationship between hooks and ticket price? No, all the hooks that you'll see in here, you could use for low ticket or high ticket. I've done it all. Would you say there's a need to develop the full hook in the email versus email plus sales page? I mean, every email you send should have some type of unique hook to it. It shouldn't just be like a straightforward generic kind of pitch. Like it should have some type of angle that makes it interesting. You can pull those angles from the sales page 100%, especially if it's a good sales page. But yeah, every email you send does need to have some type of hook. All right, everybody understand the tap into a popular person or a popular topic hook? Any other questions about that before we move on to the next one? All right. This is one of my favorite ones. The zero to hero story. So this hook is really meant to relate to the person where they're at right now, which is usually struggling and at a low point and they got problems going on. And you want to show them that it's possible to get where they want to go. So this could be someone you show them a story of someone who used to be broke and they were sleeping on their mom's couch and now they're making 100K a year and they got their own apartment and they got a new girlfriend and whatever. So, or you get like in the health niche, it could be your doctor tells you got like a month to live. They're like making funeral arrangements, like it's game over. And then 6 months later, you're running marathons. That's what the zero to hero story really is about. It's got to be a big transformation. So you really don't want to do these with like tiny transformations. Like if you lost 8 pounds, that's not really a zero to hero story. You want some type of big, holy shit kind of transformation. And you'll see these in a lot of niches. They're one of my favorite ones, the emails to write. This first one was written by Robert Bennett, who is a really good copywriter in the BizOp niche. He actually just modeled this off of one of my emails. So this is selling a phone closer BizOp offer. It's basically about this guy who worked in a normal 9-to-5 job and his boss offered him a 40-cent raise. So he said, we've given you a 40% or a 40-cent raise, not 40%, 40 cents. Peyton, congratulations. I can still picture the exact moment when my boss said those words to me for the last time. I just graduated from the University of Memphis. I was stuck in a dead-end retail job I took as a temporary gig 4 years earlier because I still hadn't figured out how to replace that much-needed income. At the time, my days looked pretty average. Wake up around 7 when the alarm clock told me it was time to go to work. Hit snooze 5 or 6 times until I remembered I couldn't afford to quit yet, and drag myself into work around 8 to prep the store. Sure, I knew I could do so much better with my time. I never pictured myself turning in the typical 9-to-5 drone, but the job was easy, mindless too, and the pay was normally good enough to get by. So one thing that's really interesting with these zero to hero stories that I want to point out here, the big crux of them, the big focus should be on where they're the beginning of it. It should be all about the zero part, because that's where the reader is at. They're much more in that frame of mind than they are in the holy shit, my life's great and everything's going good. So you want to start and really just nail in the details of what's going on, how that person feels, what's going on in their life. And he does a great job of doing that in this whole kind of first page of the email. So then he goes into, honestly, if you told me I was 21 days away from earning more money than a neurosurgeon, working on my own schedule part-time from anywhere with a cell connection, I probably would have called you crazy. So there I was. I got into the store a little past 8 that morning, and I was folding shirts in the men's section next to the main entrance when my boss, Hank, shuffled his penguin-looking frame through the door. Like any other day, he was wearing his dirty old New Balances, blue golf shirt, and his oversized khakis. By the way, the description here and really painting this picture is great. He looked like he had been breathing that recycled retail store air for the past 40 years. Gather around, you peppercorns. We've got a raise to celebrate. I still have no idea what peppercorns are. Over the last year, this guy's put in 1,800 hours of hard work. He's gotten great customer reviews. I want you all to follow his example. We've given you a 40-cent raise, Peyton. Congratulations. I think I cracked a half smile, but I can't remember. What I do remember, though, is looking around and watching my coworkers clap. They look dead, totally absent, probably living some far off world where they weren't trading their soul for $14 an hour. I got home that night feeling like I'd come out of a coma, like I'd finally came to after living on autopilot for months. I still remember lying awake that night, staring at the ceiling fan above me as I thought to myself over and over, 40 lousy cents. I've traded the last year of my life for 40 cents. Where's all the meaning? Where's all the passion? Where's all the adventure? I knew I couldn't go another day without making changes, so I called in sick the next day. For the first time, probably ever, I felt hungry. No more scraping by on 40-cent raises. No more watching my life slip by day to day. No more living on somebody else's terms. I had made a decision. Live or die, before that month was over, I was going to quit that meaningless 9 to 5, start living life on my own terms, and take control over my future and my potential. And you know what happened? It has nothing to do with anything you've heard about online. You can forget about, okay, so I'm not going to go into the whole pitch part, but he basically just pitches them on being a phone closer for a little bit and then gets them to click the link to watch the VSL. That email, though, like I said, is really great because it really focuses on the pain of the zero part of the zero to hero story. And that's where these people are who are reading this. So this is about a retail store worker, which tends to be honestly a lot of the people who buy BizOp stuff. It's people who are like working at Nordstrom's, or they're a valet, or they're a bartender. There's a lot of people like that buy these offers. So that's what this is really, really tapping into. It doesn't, like I said, the big focus has to be on the before part. And that email that Robert wrote did a great job of that. I'll show you one from the health niche here. This is one I wrote back in the day for our green supplement. This was based on a true story of one of our customers. So his wife shared this story with us. And as soon as she shared the story, I saw the potential in it. So I actually followed up with her by email to get more details on it so I could really flesh out the story. And then I even sent her a bunch of products for free, just as like thank you for helping us flesh out the story and use the story in the emails. And she was super happy to kind of share the story with us. So headline, or the subject line, World War II vet was on his deathbed, then this happened. So again, we're tapping into that zero to hero story. He's turning into a shell of his former self, his wife cried. Len had become so frail that it took every ounce of energy just to hoist himself out of his scooter and into his favorite lazy boy. But Len hadn't always been this way. In fact, when he was serving our country during World War II, he was a strapping 225-pound guy. But now he was so weak that his wife was forced to wait on him around the clock at the veterans home. After watching her husband's body slowly deteriorate, Len's wife had finally had enough. In a fit of desperation, she started to research natural remedies to see if there was something out there that would give her husband his vitality back. After a month of not having any luck, she finally stumbled upon a homemade rejuvenation drink that sounded promising. After reading about the drink, Len's wife started whipping up a 6-ounce glass of it each morning for her husband. What could it hurt, she thought. She didn't expect much at first, but just 12 days later, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. She arrived at Len's room one morning, and much to her surprise, Len was already up and trekking his way across the veterans home to get some blood work done. But that's not all. Later that night, he had enough energy to make the half-mile venture to the dining hall to eat dinner. Now, that might not seem like much to you, but previously Len was so frail that he was spending every waking minute in his bed. Getting out of his room wasn't even an option. Len's wife couldn't believe the turnaround she was seeing. I'm watching my 87-year-old husband come back to life. Energy better, breathing better, communication better, attitude better. I figured the drink couldn't hurt, but I didn't expect noticeable improvements like this, she said. Now, Len's results were amazing, and I can't guarantee that everyone will get results like his. But if this drink did all this for a frail 87-year-old like Len, then just imagine what it could do for you. Then I show a couple more examples of people who have used it and how it's helping them. And I just do a quick kind of close. So what is this drink that's helping Len and thousands of other seniors to feel young again? It's a super drink originally created for older guys in the Coast Guard to help them keep up with the younger guys in their unit. After seeing how well the drink worked for older guys in the Coast Guard, Dr. Sebring decided to let a small group of seniors test it out. As you can see from the stories on the page, seniors everywhere are now thanking their lucky stars for this drink. You can read more about it right here. That email crushed for over a year. It could have definitely been better in the beginning. I think I could have probably added a lot more to the story of how bad he really was in the beginning, and probably added a little more drama to his wife giving him the drink and maybe it like not working at first, but then like later it working. So it definitely could have been better, but I mean, who am I to, like I said, who am I to argue with the results? Like it crushed for an entire year. So I'm not gonna be too picky about it. But that's the kind of zero to hero story. Does that make sense to you guys? How those are kind of told, going from kind of nothing, 1 foot in a grave, everything's going wrong, to now kind of having the ideal life. Any questions you guys have on zero to hero story? Michelle said, you said that email crushed for over a year. Why does it stop working? Yeah, basically it'll just people at some point will have seen it so many times that it just, the conversion rate just it slowly starts to die. You can usually keep the emails running by, you can get them running a little longer. So there's a couple ways to do it. One, different subject lines. So if you have multiple subject lines you can use, that helps. If you have multiple emails to use, so like when we were running tons of email stuff for Patriot Power Greens at the time, we actually had 3 emails that were all doing pretty well, and we would just rotate all 3 of those. So instead of using the same one every single time, we used one and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. That gets the longevity going a lot longer as well. You can also go back and kind of rewrite ones that worked. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. But like that email, you could go back and just kind of rewrite it and maybe change up the look of it. Just make it a little different. Use the same story and all that, but just make it look a little different. Sometimes that works as well. So that's kind of what I've done in the past. Angel said, for coaches, personality-based businesses, how often do you recommend recycling emails? I mean, if the email works, and let's say you have like, I don't know, let's say $1,000 course, or you're promoting like your coaching thing and it works really well for that, I would definitely resend it in the future. You can always kind of like change the subject line and maybe change like the first sentence of the email if you want to make it a little different. But yeah, no reason not to resend emails that work again. Stephanie said, do you come up with the hook first or the content first? So like for that, for like those emails, you really you as the copywriter, you want to be on the lookout for things that you think could turn into great emails. So like when that woman emailed us and told us about how her husband, like, she told us the whole story. Here's where he was at. He was not doing good. Then I came back and he was up and running around the veterans home. I immediately saw the potential in that, because I was like, oh, that's a perfect zero to hero story. This guy was like on his deathbed, couldn't move, couldn't get out of a chair. And now he's like walking a mile to the dining hall. That's a really cool zero to hero story. So you as the copywriter, kind of, you just have to have like an antenna up, and like when you hear these things and you're like, ooh, that could be a good story. You're always on the lookout for like little nuggets or little stories that you're going to be able to turn into emails. So same thing like with that Mr. Beast one. Like I was listening to that Joe Rogan podcast, and as soon as he said it, and he was talking about how you could get all these more views on YouTube videos by simply just having a better idea and a better hook. Immediately I was just like, oh yeah, like that's the same thing with emails. I'm definitely going to use that in an email in the future. And I literally never used it until, I honestly, it's been like a year. It's just been sitting in my head. And I finally was like, oh yeah, this is actually perfectly applicable to this launch. So I used it in an email for this one. So you kind of got to be just on the lookout for ideas and angles that you know you're gonna be able to use in emails. Sean said, if an email works very well, would you use the same hook with different content? How would you build on a winning email copy? Yeah, that's a great idea. So, in this launch, I told the one story about how David Deutsch basically ripped my copy, and then the new copy that I wrote ended up doing really well. That email I sent during the launch did really well. So I was like, okay, that story worked, that connected. So then I told literally a very similar one, like I think the next day, basically like a very similar thing where like I'd sent out an email, it didn't work good, then I switched it, and then it worked. Why did it work? Because the hook was better on the second one, and then it worked. So the second day I sent it out, it was a totally different story, same concept, same hook, and it worked again. So yeah, when you find a hook that works, definitely keep hammering on it. So like one thing I also will do, like if something really works, I'll send out maybe another email with usually like a Q&A from a reader that taps into that same idea. And I basically just kind of repeat the same email that I sent 2 days before, but this time it's in a more Q&A format and it works just as well the second time. So I'm a big fan of when you find something that works, just keep hammering on it until it stops working. So yeah, if you send out a story email and it does great, try to find more stories. So don't go to try to find like all these other topics. Like just keep hammering on the story emails. Like just find different stories that you can insert into there. That was a really good question. Philip said, if you email every day, how often should you be pitching a product or service? This really depends on the list and what you're comfortable with. Some people promote stuff every day. I tend to do 2 launches a month, usually on average. It's really individual. A lot of the health list will literally just they'll send 2 emails a day with kind of affiliate offers. There's nothing wrong with selling something every day. If you're going to sell every day though, you need to probably use a more kind of personality driven email. If you care about keeping people on your list, you need to use kind of more of a personality driven email that has some type of value to it. Like I send to my list, like even if you didn't buy this training and you read all those emails, you still learned a lot of stuff and you got entertainment and you got a lot out of reading those emails. So I always kind of look at it like that. Michelle said, is there a recommended frequency for how often you should rotate through different versions of the same email if it's doing well, like 1 time per quarter, 1 time per month? I would do it more than that. I think it really depends on what you're selling. But yeah, I would probably do it more than that. At least once a month. If something like if you're selling like a back end product that always does well for you, yeah, you could probably do that monthly, or maybe it's like a certain time of the year that you do it. If it's like to fill people into a coaching program or to sell, let's say it's to fill people into a coaching program. Yeah, you could do like you could do a sequence for that every month. If you're selling like supplements or something that you create, maybe you're doing a special sale every single month. There's no like, I wish I could give you a set idea of like, here's exactly what you should do, but I would say you probably can do it more often than you think you do it. Angela said, do you have a systematic way of getting inspiration to come up with hooks that crush? I have an idea of these like 13 hooks that I'm sharing with you. And every time I kind of hear something that's interesting, then I'll kind of try to put it into one of those kind of 13 hooks and think about how I could use it. It's really just being on the lookout for something that's interesting and piques my curiosity. That's probably the biggest thing. Craig said, what have you found drives more sales on the last day of a sale? Emails with hooks or just the boring old last chance email? I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's usually, I tend to do a combination of both. Like at the beginning of the day, I'll do like a last chance kind of email. the end of the day, I'll do a last chance. And usually during the day, I'll do 2 emails that answer big objections. That's usually how I do the last day. And that tends to work pretty well for me. Angela, what's your process for intentional data analysis? Like figuring out what works, what doesn't? How often do you just sit down, look at the data, and then come up with what you're doing next? So when I'm doing a launch, I'm watching every single day, tracking which emails are working, which ones are not, and making notes of that. So if I send out an email and it does really well, I'm trying to think of, okay, how could I do more of that tomorrow? And then if it does well again, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that again. Basically, I'm going to keep doing what's working until it stops working. So yeah, during a launch or some type of special promo, I'm watching every single day and tracking the data on what's working, what's not. Mario said, can you clarify the process of creating the Patriot Power Greens hook? Did you first come up with the hook, or is it only after testing and seeing the impact of the Coast Guard that you saw that as a strong hook? So that actually was, I knew that this all comes back to knowing the market. So that market that we were selling to was people who are politically conservative on all these conservative email lists. And I know from understanding that market that one of the big things they have a huge affinity for is people in the military. And nobody until that point had ever really tapped into that in any of the offers that I saw running on those lists. So really, I came up with the entire hook for Patriot Power Greens from that. So we created this greens drink. We named it Patriot Power Greens. I had a cousin who was in the Coast Guard at the time. We sent him him and his whole unit, a bunch of Patriot Power Greens to test. We got a bunch of feedback from them, testimonials. And one of the testimonials that really stood out was just one of the guys was, I forget how old he was, but he was like one of the older dudes in the unit. Most people in the military are really young. He's one of the older guys. And he was just saying how I usually struggle to keep up with the young guys on our PT test, but now I'm like beating some of them. So I was like, oh, that's a great hook, because we're selling this to older people who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. What do they really want? They want to be young again. The revenge story of like beating up on someone who's half your age is like, that's like a dream scenario for someone who's in their 60s, like in everything, like go to the gym, you bench press more than your son who's 30, or you're on the golf course and you hit a drive further than your son who's half your age. Like those are just like dream scenarios for people who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. So that was really the whole angle, tapping into the kind of the elite military units using it. Charles said, if you're selling supplements as an affiliate, how often would you email about a different product? Would you stay on the one product for a week and then move to another, or email about a new product every day? I would probably do what most people in the health space do, which is simply they send new stuff every day. If you want to, I would get on, if you're not on the list for Alternative Daily, I would get on that list, email list, and just kind of watch what they do. They're really, really good at this. Natural Health Sherpa also has a really good list to kind of study how they do it. Health is a little different bit of an animal, because a lot of those guys just play the churn and burn game, where they're just adding new people every single day, and they don't care if you unsubscribe because they're adding so many people every day. And they don't really care about building a relationship with their list, because they know you're probably not going to be on the list anyways. So they just try to sell you as much stuff as possible. So it depends what your goal is with your business. Like if you want to build a kind of long-term viable brand, maybe you don't want to do that. But if you're just trying to make as much money as possible, then that's probably the way to do it. Michelle, are you tracking the data within the ESP? No, I actually track it within Samcart. And then if I'm promoting an affiliate offer, they'll usually have affiliate software that tracks it. Angela said, I usually write 3 emails per day, so I always have a surplus of emails. Would you recommend doing that or taking it day by day so I could study data in real time? Yes, if you're in the middle of a launch or like some type of multi-day promo, I would not write emails ahead of time for that. Because like like I said earlier, I don't know if you were on the call earlier, a launch or like a multi-day promo is really like a living, breathing thing. And things are like changing as it goes. And you really have to be tuned into what your list is responding to, what they're not responding to. Yeah, I 100% would not write all the emails like ahead of time or try to group them and bunch them and do them at the beginning. You kind of have to do it day by day. Sub IDs, yeah, I did. Mine is not mine. I literally just use Samcart, and then I use if I'm promoting an affiliate offer, I'll use whatever affiliate tracking software they have. So I use Maropost for my emails, and then I use Samcart for my cart. All right, I'm gonna keep rolling. Let's take a pause break. How's everybody enjoying this so far? Are you getting ideas of emails that you can write? Are you seeing how this could be helpful? I like to check in and see what everybody's thinking. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. All right. Hook number 6, target their biggest objection. So this is one I honestly, I probably never, I probably had a big blind spot to objections for a while. And then once I started doing a bunch of launches in the last year, realizing how much the objections came up and I wasn't addressing them enough and seeing how well it does when I actually do address the objections in the emails, it's pretty powerful. So the targeting their biggest objection, this tends to work really well if you're doing a launch, if you do an autoresponder, if you do a multi-day kind of email promo. There's going to be objections when you're doing something over like that span. Maybe it's a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day, whatever it is. There's going to be objections coming up. So simply just taking whatever their biggest objection is and directly just addressing it head on. Those emails tend to do really well. So a couple of emails on this. Here's a golf one from Performance Golf. So the subject line says, I doubt your claims. So it says, I very much doubt these claims. Sorry, I don't buy them for 1 minute. Brixton forwarded this comment to me from a fellow performance golfer like yourself. Hey, I get it. I'm skeptical too. There are a ton of hype products and secret methods out there promising magic-like improvements in your game. Ball crushing lag, inconsistency cured, flush contact maximized, 15 to 30 yards of distance gain. Seems unbelievable, I know, which is why I'm willing to give you an entire year to try the Lethal Lag Masterclass with a risk-free 100% money-back guarantee. And with over 6,700 students already going through this masterclass, I wanted to let you hear about their results in their own words. And this is where it really just layers on the proof for their objection. So I'm striking the ball more consistently, hitting it 25 yards further. I've been using this for 10 minutes and I haven't missed the center of the club face once. After just one session on the range, I'm making perfect contact. I'm hitting the most consistent iron shots I've ever hit. I'm hitting 80% or more of my shots perfectly flush. The lag was ridiculous. My swing speed increased dramatically. So just proof after proof after proof that this thing works. These are a few of the overflow of rave reviews I've received out of this 6,700 students going through the masterclass. However, you need to hurry. Again, you have zero risk. I can 100% guarantee it'll work for you regardless of age, fitness level, or handicap. It's simple. Take the masterclass for a 365-day test drive. If it doesn't do everything I promise, blah, 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 send your money back. All right. So like I said, very simple. Just take the objection that they have, which is, in this case, I just don't believe you, and show them a bunch of proof that it's not true. couple examples here. I did one when I did my 1-day cash machine. I got a couple emails from people who literally just kind of didn't believe that I was not using funnels, that I was just doing these kind of Zoom trainings that were just going to a checkout page. I didn't have a full funnel. So I just straight up responded to one of those. I was like, a question came in response to the email I sent yesterday where I said I stopped using funnels in my business. Then I posted the person's question in here. He said, when you say you stopped using funnels, are you not using them at all? Not for customer acquisition, not for the courses you sell? That doesn't seem possible. And I'm like, I know that might seem a little crazy, but yes, I'm not using funnels at all these days. That's not to say I won't use them in the future or that I won't use them for certain offers, but I pretty much ditched funnels in my business for one simple reason: simplicity. Right now, I'm all about keeping things simple. I don't want a big team that I need to manage. I don't want complicated funnels. All I want to do is work 1 to 2 hours a day and create trainings and courses that I know you'll love. That's my goal. And here's the thing: when you have even the smallest amount of trust with your list, you can do that without complicated funnels and without lengthy sales pages. So that's what I'm doing. I would venture to say if you're a coach, an expert, an influencer, a copywriter that has your own list, you could probably do the same. The secret to making monies without funnels is using what I call the 1-day cash machine. So that basically, then it goes into the pitch. So I don't really need to go through that. But like I said, the whole point, you're just taking this objection that you know they have and showing them proof that the objection is not true. Pretty, like I said, very simple. There's nothing like that sexy about the objection hook, but man, every time I do these during a launch, they do really, really well. So you can use them in, like I said, you could use them in launches. You could do them in multi-day like sale promos, autoresponders, especially like when someone just gets on a list and maybe you have like a 3-day or a 5-day or a 7-day kind of autoresponder thing to try to get them to buy something. 100% would recommend using this, kind of address the objection email. Any questions on that before we move on to hook number 5? Angela said, what would you recommend if you're not your ideal market? Like, do you have a favorite way to research so you really know more about them? I mean, that's that could be an entire 3-hour call by itself, but yes, you need to do a lot of research on them. The quickest ways to do it is to study other offers that are already working for that niche. So figure out the other offers in your niche that are already working, study what are the benefits they're talking about, what are the pain points they're hitting on. That's kind of the quickest way to do it. I would also highly recommend either talking to the target market in person or talking to, or just reading stuff that they're posting in Facebook groups, forums, stuff like that. That's where you can get a lot of target research. But really, like I said, just figuring out what they're actually buying and what's selling well to them is probably the quickest way. Philip said, does the non-funnel method work for having affiliates promote your stuff? No, you would not want to do that with affiliates. It's just kind of for your own stuff where you actually have trust and a relationship with your list. When you're launching new products, you have no testimonials about how do you get proof. I mean, a lot of stuff like this product, I didn't really have any proof except my own. Like I don't have like a bunch of students proof or anything like that. It obviously would sell better if I had a bunch of students proof who I had taught them all these hooks and they got a bunch of great results, but you can always use your own proof. Yeah, I mean, one thing you can also do, which is actually what a lot of the smart marketers do, is if you're launching a new product, you have a beta test group that you run through it like a couple months before you launch it. So that way you actually have testimonials and proof to use. So that's what all the guys, like all the big biz op guys who run the huge launches, they'll run a beta test group for 6 months or a year before they do the launch to get all kinds of good success stories that you can use, that they can use on the launch. When you own a list, would you say it's better to write 3 emails per day or one really good email and spend time? I mean, well, it depends what your goal is. If your goal is just to make a bunch of money and you don't really care about the quality of the list, you'd probably be better off just sending 3 emails because you'd probably be making more money. But if you want to like establish a real relationship with the list, and keep them around for a year, 2 years, 5 years, you'd be better off writing one really good email each day. All right, we're going to jump into hook number 5, the scarcity hook. So this hook usually crushes at the end of a sale or a launch that has a deadline. I mentioned this before, like on the last day when I do launches, I'll send multiple scarcity emails because they do so well. By the way, if you're doing a launch or any type of sale, the last day is going to be the biggest day of sales by far. And just like I talked about before, you can also use these at the end of a autoresponder or something like that as well. So let's jump into this one. I got a couple of them here. Here's one from the guitar niche. Subject line, we're closing. Well, this is it. I'm sending one last and final notice on this. In just a couple short hours, we're closing for good. Here's what you needed to know. Years ago, I humiliated myself in front of an entire party when an attractive young woman asked me to play. My mind went blank and everyone laughed. That's when I got serious about guitar. I bought a music theory book and went through it 3 times. Sure, I learned a few concepts here and there, but I couldn't actually do anything on the guitar other than regurgitate robotic bits and pieces. I thought I just wasn't naturally talented or that I was too stupid to grasp it. Then a mentor said, it's not you, it's your application. He showed me one simple thing and it all changed on the spot. It was so simple that after I laughed out loud, I cried because I wanted to play that way for so long. And it was the one thing that changed everything for me on guitar. And it's done the same for over 100,000 other guitar players ever since. You see, even though it's inevitable for you to achieve your guitar playing goals when you simply take the right steps in the right order, the problem for most guitar players is that they simply don't know exactly what they should be doing and in what order to play the guitar the way they always wanted. In essence, they don't have a laid out roadmap that tells them all the right turns, when to take them, and what to physically do on the guitar to get better fast. That's why I created the Application Academy, a proven roadmap that takes any guitar player from where they are to become the guitar player they always wanted to be, no matter where they started. When you follow the steps in the order I've already laid out them for you, it progressively enables you to play whatever you want on guitar. It's like a GPS. It takes you exactly where you want to go. That's because I've already done all the hard work of putting it all together for you. So all you have to do is follow the simple action steps in each module, blah, 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 blah. So that's the pitch part. Basically has this course or academy that is closing down and big kind of urgency. It ends tonight. You can get this special deal, $350 off the retail. That's really what the scarcity emails are all about. Just hammering home that this is your last chance to either get this special price or this thing's closing or whatever the thing is. Whatever the thing is for the deadline. That's really what you're tapping into. I'll show you one more from that I sent. I think this is when I was promoting. Yeah. So I was promoting Stefan's RMBC course. I did the subject line, bad news. I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but this morning I need to be. Here's the deal. I've been telling you for the past 5 days about the special 4th of July sale that Stefan Georgia is having for his incredible copywriting course, RMBC. Unfortunately, that sale ends today. And after it ends, the price will go back to $997. So that's the bad news. The good news is that you still have the rest of today to snag the course for just $97 up front, and you can pay the rest at a later date. So basically, you get to test drive the course to see if you like it. And if you like it, then you simply pay the rest at a later date, which is an awesome deal. However, that awesome deal ain't lasting forever. The cart will close at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time tonight, and Stefan won't be reopening tomorrow or letting people in who missed the deadline. So I highly recommend you grab a copy of the course before then if you want it. With RMBC, you're basically getting to learn from the Michael Jordan of copywriting. And if you put RMBC to use, you can write winning sales pages that command fees of 5K, 10K, 20K or more. Or you can use RMBC on your own offers to increase the conversions and AOV on your sales pages. In my opinion, this is the best copywriting course out there for 2 reasons. I've seen it produce the best results out of any course on the market. I'm talking about Stefan's track record and the track record of other copywriters I've coached who are using it. Number 2, unlike most copy courses, this is not theory. It's a simple templated process that's repeatable no matter what your skill level is with copy. Now I go into more proof. Talk about copywriters who I've seen use it. And this is a kind of important part. I try to address everybody. So newbie copywriters, Michael Roisin used it to go from broke to 12K a month. Intermediate copywriters like Scott Mills followed it, and he turned himself into a writer who's on pace to make 420K this year. Business owners like Nick Daniel and Steve Gunn used it to scale their offers to 1,000 buyers a day. So that's targeting the business owners. So I'm making sure to target newbie copywriters, intermediate, and then business owners. So for me, the proof is in the pudding. RMBC flat out works. And if you're serious about putting out good copy, then you need this course. So there's the little pitch for it. Set them to the link. Very, like I said, very, very just scarcity based. We're hitting on, this is the last chance to get it. There's really not a whole lot to teach on these. I mean, just, you really want to hammer home what works, provide some proof, and then just keep drilling into their head that like, hey, this is the last time. Thomas said, sounds similar to the email you sent about this class. Yep, I tend to reuse it over and over because it just keeps working. Any other questions on the scarcity hooks? Yeah, definitely pretty standard stuff for end of the launch. I'm a big fan of just kind of keeping things simple. So if something works and it continues to work, I'm just going to keep using it and until it stops working. Angela, I see your question on here, but I'm not sure what selling in the PH means. By the way, Angela, your questions are all going to host and panelist instead of everyone. So I'm the only one who could see them. So make sure you put it to everyone so other people see it. Oh, you're selling in the Philippines. I mean, that's a much more complicated question that I can answer on this call. That's not really what this call is about. So I'm going to skip over that one. Thomas said, how about throwing the buy link on top before the story? You can do that. I kind of will use both. Usually I'll try to, like, midway down, I'll throw a buy link and then I'll restate the offer and then do it at the end again. I'm always hesitant to have it right at the top. Just because I really want to be able to go through the full selling process. Devum said best reasons for scarcity. Time. So like this thing's ending tonight. Price change. Bonuses that expire or special gifts that expire. Only a certain number of spots. Like if you're doing an event and there's only 10 seats. Those are probably the 4 that I rely on the most. Leo, have you taken a list that's been scarcity based driven for a long time and enriched hooks in a strategic way once you manage it? Have you taken a list that's been scarcity based? I'm not really sure exactly what you're asking there. So are you saying that the list is all just scarcity based emails and now you're looking for other ways to send emails? Is your scarcity based emails all sales type stuff or it's like special sales? Is that how they came on the list as well? Is that how they got on the list in the first place? Um, so yeah, I mean, reason I'm asking, like, whatever they came in on is probably what they're going to keep buying on. Like people who bought on a sales type email or a sales type offer, they are sales buyers, and that's what they're going to continue to buy on. So if you go away from that, it's probably not going to work very well. Um, yeah, it's people tend to continue to buy how they came on the list. So yeah, I would probably advise against it and just keep doing what's working. All right, got four more. Trudging along. We're at the 2 hour mark. You guys are champions for sticking around. Love it. Hook number 4, the contrarian hook. So this is one of my favorite ones to write. It's really meant to just say the opposite of what everyone else in your niche is saying, or the opposite of what the people reading your stuff believe. And if you do this right, it can absolutely crush, especially during launches, where everybody's always like talking about something being great and they're all kind of saying the same thing. And then you kind of go the opposite way. That works really well. But even just normal kind of everyday emails that you send, if you're taking a contrarian hook to what everybody else in the niche is saying, so you got to keep in mind, like the people on your list are probably on other lists in your niche as well. So they're kind of seeing everything. So if they're on Natural Health Sherpa's health list, they're probably also on BioTrust supplement list, or maybe they're on the alternative daily list, or maybe they're on VShred's list. Most people are not just on one email list, so they're seeing kind of everything else going on and what's being sent and reading those emails. So if you're going the opposite of that and you're able to tie that in with what you're selling, it can do really, really well. I'll show you a couple of examples here. This is a super just straightforward one from Health Niche. Subject line is avoid keto, paleo, and vegan diets if. So it starts off CNN and UCLA have recently reported the 3 popular diets below are all sabotaging your weight loss hormones if you're over the age of 40. Hormone disruptor 1, ketogenic diet. Hormone disruptor 2, paleo diet. Hormone disruptor 3, vegan diet. All 3 of these trendy diets have one major problem in common: zero or little carbs. Research proves people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s using any of these are destined for fat storage, hormonal imbalances, chronic disease, and other deadly symptoms. Truth is, if you've been on any of these diets for 14 days or more, you're probably suffering from metabolic slowdown. The good news is there's a new 1-day hormone resetting solution you can use instead that works big time. 58-year-old Grandma Karen just lost 22 pounds in just a few weeks. Got a cool before and after, and then another link. So that's a great example of, like I said, a contrarian email. Here's another one. Subject line: avoid collagen. If you're on any of these health lists, you'll know like collagen is a big, big, big deal, and it's talked about all the time. So simply saying avoid collagen is a great way to get people's attention. Is your neck drooping, hair dry and flaky, or maybe your nails are getting brittle? These are warning signs that you're collagen deficient, and it's going to get worse if you don't do something about it. Believe it or not, collagen deficiency strikes nearly everyone over the age of 30 because after 30, you start losing 1% of collagen per year. And that's no good because the fact is, collagen is the glue that holds your body together. Without it, your body literally starts falling apart fast. So if you have those signs, it's time to act now, not later. A lot of people turn to expensive collagen powders for help. Only problem, they're pretty useless for a reason because they're incomplete. They're missing 4 out of the 5 most important types of collagen. These 5 super collagens work together to support glowing skin, gorgeous hair, and thick and healthy nails. So the whole angle of this is like avoid collagen because most collagen powders are incomplete and they don't have all the stuff that you actually need. And now this one is actually has everything you need. So that's a great way to kind of get their attention and then show the reason why you said you should avoid collagen. That's a great example. Here's one more example. The case against personality driven emails. This is one I sent to my list when I was promoting my course on how to write personality driven. So that's kind of just interesting right there. Like I'm promoting a course on personality driven emails. I'm talking about why they're the greatest. Then I send it one and says the case against personality driven emails. So I basically go into it and say, I'll always be a big fan of sending personality driven emails. Why? Because they made me a lot of money over the years. However, I will say that they're not for everyone. They do have some downsides, and I want to share a few of those downsides with you. So this is kind of like just a truth serum thing where I'm just going to show you the ugly underbelly of personality driven emails. So I basically start with 3 points. I'm like, they're not as easy to write as the 100-word click driver emails. So there's a lot of super short emails out there that are a lot easier to write than personality driven ones. I also say you need to be willing to be vulnerable and share stories of your life. I talk about how the best emails I've ever sent are ones where I've shared stories of things I've struggled with. I share a couple examples of that. And then I also say you'll usually make less money in the short term, but you will make more money in the long term. So I could just sell probably a lot more to my list if I just hammered with like selling emails every day in the short term, but people also would not stick around. Like I have people on my list who have bought stuff from me since 2018 when I started my list. If I was just sending short click driver emails that sell, those people would not stick around. So if all you care about is money in the short term, feel free to do that. But if you actually care about making more money in the long term, the personality driven emails is a much better way to do it. So I talk about that. So I really expose the 3 kind of downsides of the personality driven emails. And then I really go back. I talk about how if you care about the long game and you want people to stay on your list year after year, then personality driven emails are the way to go. And I talk about how I was able to make $1.6 million from a small list of 8,200 people. All that was possible because of the bond that my emails created with my list. So a bunch of proof that what I'm teaching works. And then I just go into pitching my personality driven emails thing. So that's another example of a contrarian email. The big thing with the contrarian, like I said, is just going against what they expect you to say or what other people are saying in the in your niche. So yeah, by the way, this is one that I think Gary Bencivenga was the first person I kind of learned this from. He had a pretty famous one for an alternative health supplement. That was like the case against alternative medicine. And it was from a doctor who's like a big alternative medicine person. So it really went contrarian to what people expected and it just crushed. And so I've been using these kind of contrarian ones for, I don't know, almost 10 years now. And it works really, really well. Robert said, you mentioned contrarian for SaaS businesses. Would you use contrarian against your own product category / why yours is the only solution in that industry? or as to why your solution product category is the real fix? I would definitely use contrarian in the sense of calling out things they're doing wrong. So like, for example, and I don't know much about SaaS, so it's hard for me to give examples from that niche, but like, let's say in the travel industry, if someone is trying to do something with credit card points and I'm like, stop converting your Amex points on the Amex website. That's kind of a contrarian, because that's like what most people do, but that's actually not what you're supposed to do if you want to get the most value out of your points. So that would be a contrarian thing against what everybody in that niche is doing. So really, you have to be in tune with what everybody's thinking in that niche. Like, what is everybody else talking about? What is everybody else saying? And then how can you go against that? Just like I did with the collagen one. Everyone on all these health lists is talking about how collagen is the greatest thing ever, greatest thing ever. Turmeric is the greatest thing ever, the greatest thing ever. Then you're sending an email like why you should avoid collagen, why you should avoid turmeric. So you really got to be in tune with, I would give you some examples, but I don't really understand the SaaS industry much. But you're probably more in tune with it if you're writing for it. So you should have a good idea of what are the type of things that everyone else is talking about and saying. Yeah, definitely, Robert. Start with the biggest segment. One of the segments is gonna be bigger than the others in terms of who you're trying to reach. So just start with the biggest segment. And you could also split your list based on the segments if you could do that. All right, 3 more of these. Hook number 3, or on the proof. I love this one. So this one's really just meant to drown the reader with proof. That's the way I look at it. So the more proof you can give them, whether that's your own results, whether that's results your students got, screenshots, credibility you have, big names who are maybe using your thing or endorsing you, before and after pictures, whatever it is. If you got 20 or 30 different success stories from students, you want to share them all in this email. So that's really what Pour on the Proof is all about. A couple examples. This one did really, really well for me when I was promoting my personality driven emails course. So I literally just laid out how much money I made from January to April. I was like, for anyone skeptical of the power of personality driven emails, take a look at the last 5 promos I've done to my list. I lay out all 5 courses that I promoted, how much I made with each one. So I say overall, I made a nice chunk of change, but what's crazy is that my list isn't big. Most of these promos were done when my list was around 9,300 people. A lot of people in my niche, like Ian Stanley, Ben Settle, and Mike Dillard, have lists that are 3 to 10 times the size of mine. Yet despite my dainty list, I was still able to pull in around 60K per month from January through April. That just goes to show you the power of writing personality-driven emails. When you send emails that people actually want to read, they tend to open them. They start to trust you. And as a result, they buy the things that you recommend. That could be a course, a physical product, coaching, or even an affiliate offer. It doesn't really matter what it is. Personality-driven emails will sell pretty much anything, which is why I'm a huge fan of them, and also why I created a course that shows you exactly how to write them, blah, blah, blah. So that goes into the pitch. So the big thing here, though, is the proof. I just laid out 5 different things of proof of why, showing them why the personality-driven emails work so well. That's really the crux of the Pour on the Proof email hook. Here's one from the investing niche. Subject line, the 2023 gold rush is here. The moment you've been waiting for is here. This might be the most important interview we've aired so far this year because it features the newest ideas of a top gold expert whose research has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Fortune, Forbes, and Barron's. He's appeared countless times at CNBC and Kitco, and even exposed a major gold scandal that made headlines in the Washington Post and New York Times and was later turned into a hit movie. He's on a first name basis with the CEOs of the top gold companies who speak at his private gold conference every year. So that's just a ton of kind of like credibility and proof piling on there. If I was writing this, I would like to have a little more in there of like things he's called out before, like things he was right with, like time in the market with gold. Like he first bought gold when it was $200 an ounce, and then he bought even more when it dipped in 2010. Like I would have a little more of that in there, but overall, there's a lot of good proof and credibility that this guy knows what he's doing. So then it goes on, which is just one reason why Jim Grant, one of the smartest minds in finance today, calls him the #1 gold mining authority. And James Turk, the founder and chairman of Gold Money, says, regardless whether you are new to the mining sector or a skilled veteran, you'll benefit from his work. Today, he's stepping forward with his latest prediction about gold, which he says could realistically make you 10 to 20 times your money or more as gold continues to move higher. As you'll see, it's all thanks to a perfect storm, unlike anything we've ever seen with gold before. But pay close attention, because this man's system for making money in gold, which he'll explain in detail for you today, has delivered a cumulative gain of 706% since 2001. So he crushed the returns of gold, the returns of major gold funds, and more than doubled the S&P 500. So drop what you're doing and tune in right now to see why he says if you make the right move today, you may never have to worry about money ever again. So a really good, just kind of like I said, credibility, proof, just pouring on that proof after proof after proof. Really, your whole thing is just drowning the person in proof. That is what you want to try to do here. Any questions on the pour on the proof email hook before we move on to the next one? It's a pretty, like I said, it's a pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot to explain. It's just as much proof as you can throw at them that shows whatever the thing is you're selling actually works and will work for them. That's really what you're going for here. All right, final two. Who's ready for the big reveal, the final two? Give me some love in the chat. I want to make sure everybody's still alive. All right. You guys are troopers. It's been a little over 2 hours. All right, hook number 2, selling the dream. This is probably one of my favorite ones to write. I love this one. So really this hook just taps into your reader's greed of getting the dream life that they desperately want. So that could mean being retired on the beach and having $10 million in your savings. It could mean running marathons at the age of 73. It could mean going out to a club and picking up the hottest girl. It could mean hitting a drive 30 yards past a guy that's half your age. Those are all like big dream moments in the life that the people on your list want to have. And that's really what you're just tapping into with selling the dream. I got a couple of good examples of this. We'll do the Dr. Sebring one is one of my favorite ones. So this is the Dr. Sebring was the face of our greens product. He was like 61 years old, and there was actually a picture in here, I believe, when I sent the email originally. He was 61 years old in incredible shape, looked a lot younger than he was. And so we really just tapped into that for this email. So I said, at an age when most of his friends are suffering from achy joints and heart problems, Dr. Lane Sebring seems to be getting younger each day. Despite turning 61 in March, Sebring is still competing in martial arts competitions against guys half his age and winning. But it's not just his physical prowess that's remarkable. Take one glance at his lab test, and you'd think you're looking at a guy in his 30s. His blood pressure registers at a healthy 110/79, and his fasting blood sugar level never jumps above 70. So when word of this age-defying MD got out, Fox News immediately cleared their schedule and rushed to get him on TV. How does a guy who's 61 years old still enjoy life like a 30-year-old, they wondered. Sebring revealed to Fox News that he's a big believer in the popular paleo lifestyle. but that's only part of his secret. After a little prodding, Dr. Sebring also revealed that he has a secret weapon that he added to his regimen this year that's helping him feel younger by the day. In fact, it's a super drink he originally developed to help older guys in the Coast Guard so they could keep up with the young guys in their unit. Many of the older Coast Guardsmen now swear by this drink after it's made their achy joints, stiff muscles, and lack of energy a thing of the past. Now, up until a few months ago, this super drink was only available to elite military units. Regular people like you and I could not purchase it. However, after seeing the incredible results the military was getting with Patriot Power Greens, Dr. Sebring realized that in good conscience, he could no longer keep this drink from the public. So for a limited time, he set aside a small number of free samples, blah, blah, blah. So this was like a free plus shipping version of the offer. That's why he's giving away free samples. But anyway, the big thing I want to touch on here is like this first part, which is really selling the dream. So if we're talking to 50, 60, 70-year-olds whose bodies are falling apart and they're feeling older by the day, and every morning they wake up, something else hurts. And we're talking about how this guy is 61 and he's competing in martial arts competitions and beating guys half his age. And he's got the blood work of a guy in his 30s. That's selling the ultimate dream to what these people want. They want a second shot at youth. They want to feel 10 or 20 years younger than they actually are. And Sebring is a great example of being able to do that. So that email worked really, really well. Like I said, it ran for a long time. It also, we talked before about some of these emails that combine different elements. Like this one obviously combines like, it's got drama in here with like Fox News immediately clearing their schedule. It's got a lot of proof with Fox News, which to a conservative audience is something that's really going to resonate with them. We got all the military Coast Guard stuff, what's going to resonate with the conservative group as well. So a lot more proof and credibility there. So a lot of different elements in there working, but the main thing is really just selling that dream of being older and feeling like you're getting younger each day. Here's one I sent to my list. I can't remember which promo this was. I think it was for the 1 hour cash or the 1 day cash machine. Basically just took the angle of making a bunch of money while I'm laying on the beach. That is the dream that so many people have. That's like why you get into the online marketing copywriting world. So I just played that up. Subject line was, I made $6,800 an hour while on the beach in Cancun. So I said, true story. Back in January, I went to Cancun for a week with my then girlfriend, and we spent most of our days eating tacos and sipping fruity drinks with pineapples in them. We were a couple of lazy bums while we were there. We woke up late. We took slow walks down the beach, and we spent most of the day just lying in a cabana next to the pool. The whole trip was incredibly relaxing and stress-free. And while all that was great, here's the best part of the whole thing. Even though I was spending most of my day working on my tan by the pool, I was still able to pull in a little more than $6,800 for each hour that I worked that week. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what happened. Because while I was there, I wrote an email each day to my list promoting a live training I was doing on Zoom. And I asked people to pay $197 to be on that training. As a result of those emails, 454 people signed up for the training, which wound up putting $89,832 in my pocket. Talk about crazy. I had no idea it would do that well, but it did. And since the training did so well, and since you could easily run the same kind of training to your list, no matter what niche you're in, I decided I'm going to teach you exactly how to do it. So then I go into the pitch for the 1 day cash machine. But really the thing I want you to see here is just painting this picture of the ideal life that a lot of people on my list want. I think adding the picture really adds a lot to it. It gives it a lot more credibility and proof. It makes it more real. And just it feels more real than if there was no picture there. So I added that as well. But yeah, I mean, this is like the type of email, like even I would read this email and be like, yeah, I want that life. That's kind of what I was going for. Gabe said, do you have different lists based on the niches you write about? Because you keep saying my list, but I'm guessing you mean specifically for that niche. I used to have a bunch of different health and fitness lists. Now I currently just have my current list that I sell my copywriting and online marketing stuff too. But yes, in the past, I wrote for my own health, fitness. I wrote for some survival stuff. I did write freelance for a bunch of other lists at one point in time. So I've kind of written for a lot of different lists. Mario said, what's the difference between the big idea and the angle? I feel unclear about them. Honestly, with email, I kind of look at them as the same thing. You could honestly call a lot of these big ideas. I think with email, it's really very, very similar. So I look at the hook, big idea, the angle, all is kind of like a similar thing. All right, we got one more question coming. Anybody, by the way, any questions on that? Any questions on the selling the dream before we move on to the last one? Stephanie said, so when you have a launch, do you combine certain emails on the norm? I'm thinking for the coaches I write for, there's a good flow that can come together. All of these could also be created into content for pages, blogs, and pitch decks. I'm not sure what you mean, combine certain emails on the norm. If you want to explain that a little further in the comments, I can. I mean, really, so when you're doing a launch, it's really just figuring out what's the most interesting things you have. It might be, you might have really interesting stories. So that could be success stories. So maybe you write a bunch of selling the dream emails or 0 to hero emails. Maybe you have more kind of interesting contrarian stuff that you can hit on. Maybe you have more interesting kind of conspiracy, fear mongering stuff that you can hit on. It really just kind of depends what you have after you've kind of done the research and you go through what you actually have for that product or that offer. And then you'll kind of tailor your emails that you're going to write towards the best stuff that you have. You really just, you want to make sure you're using the best stuff you have. So if I was doing a launch and I had 6 really good success stories of people who were dead broke and now they're making 10 grand a month because of the thing I taught them, I would probably just hammer those over and over and just tell those story emails over and over again. So it really does kind of boil down to what you have, and then how can you take the most interesting things and turn those into emails. All right, dun, 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 dun. The final one. This was actually very much of a disappointment when I went through all the data, because I kind of wanted one of the more sexier hooks to win. And I went through all this data and poured through which one made the most sales. And the one that did the best was just like a straightforward tapping into a big pressing problem that your niche has. Like I said, in my head, I like wished it would have been one of the sexier ones, but the data does not lie. And anytime you can tap into a big pressing problem that the people on your list have, those emails just tend to do the best. So one thing I will point out here is that a big pressing problem is different from just a problem. So a big pressing problem is something that they're thinking about, could be daily, could be weekly. And usually getting to the other side of that problem, there's usually a big hurdle there. So like, let's say with like the men's dating niche, the big hurdle is to get the girl, you're going to have to go out and talk to girls. Well, that's a huge hurdle for most guys because most guys don't want to do that. They're scared to get rejected. It's going to be awkward. People are going to make fun of them. If you could find a way to tap into that big pressing problem of how to meet women without having to do that one thing, it's going to sell like crazy. So that's kind of what this one really taps into. I'll show you a couple of really good examples that worked for me, as well as obviously other lists. But the one I did for the one-day cash machine that did really, really well, subject line was $89,000 in sales without a funnel. That is a huge pressing pain point for a lot of people on my list. Creating a funnel, which means you have to have a sales page, which means you have to set up all the upsells and create the content and put the whole thing together. The technicality of setting it, it's a lot of stuff and just, it's a huge, huge hurdle. So if I'm selling something that's going to help you make a bunch of sales without having to do a funnel, that's going to be a pretty attractive thing. So I started out with, in my 19 years of making money online, I was always under the impression that you had to have a sales letter to make sales. Why? Because that's what was drilled into my head by guys like Dan Kennedy and Gary Halbert. So every offer I put out, I wrote a 30-page sales letter or a lengthy VSL. But recently I started to see that if you have even the tiniest bit of trust with your list, you can make a ton of sales without a long sales page. Case in point, back in January, I decided to run a one-day training on Zoom, teaching people how to build an email list. But I didn't want to go through the hassle of writing a sales letter to sell it. So instead of cranking out a 30-page sales letter, I decided to just send my list to a checkout page. So I wrote a few emails talking about the training. And I said, if you want to be a part of this live training, go get signed up on the checkout page. That was the entire process. No sales page, no complicated funnel. And guess what? My list ate it up. I sent a week's worth of emails about the training. By the end of the week, I had made $89,000 in sales. And that was to a relatively small list of 9,300 people. When all was said and done, I made a little over $9 per subscriber. Feel free to do the math on what that would work out to for your list size, which is more money than I had made on any other promo or course. So I was surprised, but it just shows how powerful these one-day trainings are. Cool thing is you could run this exact same one-day training in pretty much every niche out there. Then I give a bunch of examples. I'm like, you have a fitness list, you could do this. Men's dating list, you could talk about how to get more matches on Tinder. If you're talking to marketers and consultants, you can teach them how to get better clients. Opportunities are endless. All you need is an email list and a checkout page. That's it. So if you'd like to run one of these, your list, blah, 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 blah. Then I go into the pitch. So again, the big thing I'm tapping into here is a big pressing problem. So what is a big problem that they have not been able to find a good solution for? That's something that they think about every week. I tapped into this in another one here, or subject line was endless ideas for your emails. I know from talking to people who write a lot of email copy, coming up with ideas for what to write about is a huge, huge problem. It used to happen to me a lot, not as much anymore, but it still happens once in a while. But having ideas and trying to figure out what to write about is definitely a big pressing problem for people that write email copy. So I started talking about that when I first started this email list back in 2018. My biggest struggle was coming up with new things to write about each day. Why? They didn't have templates to use or a list of ideas to swipe from. Each day was basically a new war to come up with an idea to write about. Some days I'd start writing and halfway through, I'd realize the idea sucked and I'd scrap the whole thing and start it over. Other days I'd write a couple sentences, get stuck, and then proceed to scroll Instagram for the next 20 minutes. I probably wasted a good 3 hours every week racking my brain trying to come up with ideas for my emails. So it was not exactly an ideal situation. However, after a few years of writing emails every single day, I started to see patterns of which emails resonated with my list and which ones didn't. So I kept a running list of how each one performed. And the more I studied my list, I realized that despite all the emails I sent, there were only 9 different email types that consistently crushed for me week after week. The cool thing is not only did these emails make a ton of sales, but my list actually loved them, even when I was selling stuff, which is unusual. Usually if you're selling something, a bunch of people on your list are going to get pissed off and unsubscribe. But with the personality-driven emails I was sending, that didn't happen. People actually enjoyed the emails and they were opening them at a 57% clip. And because people like the emails so much, I was able to pull in between 60K and 120K a month for those emails to a list of only 8,500 people. So really, the big thing I want to point out here is both of these I've shared in a story form. So I'm tapping into the problem that people on my list have, and I'm tapping into it with a story form, usually of my story. I've done other ones where I've tapped into it with other people's stories. Like one of the emails I wrote was about Alec, who was one of my copy cubs who really struggled with procrastination and writer's block, like so bad that he would literally wait an entire week to write emails. Like he'd wait till Sunday to write emails that were due on Monday, and he'd have to write them all on Sunday. He was just like crippled by his writer's block and his procrastination. And that resonated with a lot of people. Like that email did really, really well too, because that's a big, big pain point for a lot of people on my list. So this really, understanding this really comes from knowing the people on your list, knowing the pain points that they have, and really just listening and paying attention to what resonates with them, what doesn't resonate with them. That's really how you come up with these big pressing problem kind of emails. Any questions on the big pressing problem email? I have one bonus one for you too after this, and then we'll wrap up for the day. So Michelle said, how do these work if you're in a really professional B2B niche? I have a client who hates anything with a casual tone because we have a lot of VPs of banks on our email list. So they don't like stories, drama, dream lifestyle, anything. They kind of just want boring corporate emails that are short and to the point because they don't think copywriting works for them. Oh, these are always funny. So you have two options. One, if they will let you test stuff and you'll be able to show them real data that what you're writing actually works better than what they say. If you're able to just get like one or two tests in there, that's a way to show them. The other thing is, which I would usually recommend to most people in this situation, is to simply find better clients. Trying to convince people who think they know what's best is kind of a fool's errand. I've had this happen with a lot of the dog rescues that I work with. They've literally given me the exact same kind of pitch as you just gave. Like, I'll write a really great fundraising letter that's all about like this sad dog that's like lonely and had this horrible life, and now we're helping save him. And can you donate some money to help? Like a great fundraising letter, just proven over, been used for like 40 years in animal fundraising. They just work all the time. And they're like, oh, well, our people don't really go for those. Like ours is a much like smarter, higher level. And it's just like, that's not true whatsoever. But you can either pull out your hair and try to convince them, or you can simply find better clients who actually want to use your knowledge and use the creativity and use the copy experience that you actually bring to the table. So it's not a fun spot to be in, but if you can get them to do a small test where you could actually prove to them and show them that, hey, this way actually works better, great. If not, then your option is either suck it up and keep writing what they want or find better clients. Angela said, we have 200,000 emails that haven't been nurtured at all for years. Do you think it's better to revive them or just re-engage them through a Facebook ad run specifically to that list? Only people who look like them or just buyers only? I would revive them with a bunch of emails. You have to be really clear who you are and why they were on your list, and make sure you offer a bunch of really clear opt-out links, especially in the beginning. But if you start sharing a lot of really good and entertaining kind of info with them, like these personality driven emails where they can get something out of it, I would not try to sell anything to them in the first beginning. Maybe just you could even give away like free stuff, like free PDFs, free videos, whatever it is. I would do that to kind of revive the list. You're probably going to have to do that send a couple emails a week, and then just keep filtering out the people that are not opening. You got to be pretty ruthless with that. Like just keep filtering those out, and yeah, and then take the people who are engaged and see if you can sell them some stuff. Sean said, thanks for taking the training. Where can we get? So I'm not really sure what you're asking, Sean. Or can we get something of your training? I'm not sure any of my other ones are for sale right now. Angela, you'll be able to go through the first 4 of them once you get the video, because you'll get the video sent to you tomorrow. I'm not going to go over them now since I already went over them. But you'll be able to go over them tomorrow when you get the video and the recording. Sam asked if I could match the name. Some of the hooks I used in the email. Honestly, some of them changed from when I originally wrote that email because I ended up finding better ones that I wanted to share with you guys. So some of them were a little different. If you want to email me some specific ones, Sam, I can go over that with you. If there was like a specific one you wanted to know, just email me and I can help you with that. What are the things you consider when thinking of an intention grabbing subject line to match your email content? I try to get curiosity in the subject line. I try to get proof. Curiosity is the biggest one. Curiosity, then some type of proof or credibility, and then specifics. So like making $5,109 an hour versus making a bunch of money. One's much more specific. Those are kind of the big 3 things I try to get. Leah said, what is the value of still sending your offer through email, even they already subscribed to your course? I noticed it to you for this course. I'm not really sure what you're asking, Leah. You have to be more clear on that. John said, I don't have subscribers, just leads who don't know me. Can I treat them like subscribers and email every day? How can I get opt-ins? John, you have to give me more detail on what you're asking. What do you mean? If you have leads, but they don't know you. I'm not sure, like, what are you selling, like insurance or something? I'm not sure. You gotta give me more depth and background and context so I can help you. You asked, how can I get opt-ins? That's a whole nother course. That's not something I can just tell you how to do in 5 minutes. Philip said, I have a 35 to 40% open rate with my list, but click rate is low. I assume that's lack of attractive hooks. It's either your hook, or whatever you're selling is not what they actually want. That definitely could be part of it. Yeah, so Leah, you're asking like, so after someone signs up for like if you signed up for this training last week, yeah, I send you the rest of the emails for a couple of reasons. A, I think it keeps you interested in the call that's coming up. And that's really honestly the main reason I do it. the other reason is like, I don't want to take you off that list and then you not get any emails from me for 4 or 5 days. So I just continue to keep you on it. I usually write the subject line after I finish writing the content. Yeah. But I usually will have some type of idea in my mind of like what I want the subject line to be. But I write it actually afterwards. John said, I'm giving away directory profiles to a list of city businesses and selling upgrades to the profiles. I can help with more stuff later. I still don't really know exactly what it's hard for me to give you advice when the info you're giving me is kind of so broad. It's got to be really specific. So I'm going to go on and just do the bonus hook now. And then we'll wrap up for today since we've been on for nearly 3 hours. I don't want you guys dying on the Zoom call. So last one, I just added this at the last minute because I sent this during the launch. Basically sending an email from someone that's not you. So it could be your wife, your husband, your dog, your customer service rep. These tend to work really, really well. Simply because it's coming from someone else and it's coming from a name that your list is not going to recognize usually. So here's one I did in the past where I sent from my previous assistant, Lori. So the from name was Lori Mitchell. It was not Justin Goff. Subject line was, did you see this? And basically just like a little topper thing. It's like, hey, Chris, Justin's out at dinner tonight. So he wanted me to make sure you saw this before it expires in a few hours. Lori Mitchell, Justin's assistant. And that was just a pitch again from one of the original emails that was sent during that launch. That does really well. Like I said, it's going to get a lot of open rates simply because it's got a different name on it. That's probably the easiest way to do this, where you're literally just doing this little topper thing. You'll see these done a lot in political fundraising, where like the candidate's wife or their kid or someone who's like endorsing them will send the email on their behalf. But those work really well. The one I did yesterday was the dog one. A lot of people really like that one. So it was from name Boo Boo. So that obviously stood out a lot. Most people just saw Boo Boo and like, what the hell is that? Subject line, don't tell anyone I sent you this. So I wrote this literally in the voice of a dog, and I wanted it to sound like a dog. So that's really the whole point of it. And I wanted to be kind of like funny and charming and cute. So that was kind of what I was going for. But I said, I have to make this quick because if I get caught on the computer, I'll get in big trouble. My name's Boo Boo, and I'm the little guy next to Justin in the picture below. Right now, I live at the Austin Animal Shelter. They have too many dogs at the shelter, so I'm in the overflow room where I have to be in a crate all day. I don't like it in here. There's always dogs barking, and I can't run around. Most of the day, I just cry in my crate and wonder why I have to be in this little cage all day. It's a rough life, but there is a part of the day that I love, and that's around 4 o'clock when Justin comes in to take me for a walk. When I see him walk through the door, my tail starts wagging 100 miles an hour. He always gives me a big belly rub, then takes me on a walk around the trail by the shelter. It's the best. I get to run around the grass, be in the sun. He even has these little liver treats for me in his pocket. It's my favorite part of the day. It makes me so happy. We actually just got back from our walk today a few minutes ago, and now he's out walking my friend Archer. So while he's out, I wanted to help him since he's always nice and takes me for walks. He told me he has a special Zoomy call tomorrow. He's going to teach you his favorite email hooks. I don't really know what that means, but he said all the people who sign up for the call will make more sales with their emails. So that sounds pretty cool. He did tell me today is the last day to sign up for the Zoomy call. So I think you should do it. He said if you want to know more, he put all the info in the Google Docs page. I hope it helps you make a lot of money and you buy me treats with that money. Your friend Boo Boo. So I put another picture of him at the bottom. That email did it was not one of the best ones or anything by any means, but it did do really well. I think it drove like 15 sales. Yeah, I definitely would like to try those again in the future. They do work really well. I just honestly kind of totally forgot about them, but they are, I've seen them done with like a customer service person. I've seen them done with like a warehouse person where it's like, hey, we got extra bottles of this and this is the last chance. And my name's Frank and I work in the warehouse. So yeah, just kind of get creative with it. And you can figure out pretty easily things that you'd want to write about or from someone else that the email could come from. Emily said, oh yeah, my profile picture displays in the inbox. It's something through Google. What is that called? Google Workspace or Google Admin. Troy Erickson set it up for me. I honestly don't really know anything about it, but yeah, my picture will show up if you're on Gmail, I believe. Philip said, would something like this be best for a last call offer expires soon type email? Yeah, I think that's where they tend to write. That's where I think they tend to work really well. Kind of a scarcity type reminder kind of thing. Yeah. How long did it take you to write Boo Boo? That was super quick. That was probably like, honestly, probably 15 minutes. Questions, any analytics you can share, like variance between best and worst hook performance? I mean, these are like the 13 best hooks out of God knows how many hundreds I've tested over the years. So all of these are good hooks, and these are all ones that I still use from time to time. Like I said, the large majority of my emails probably tend to be the 1 through 5 or 6. Like those first 6 are the ones that I kind of use over and over. But yeah, I mean, number 10, whatever, could easily be the best performing email for you. Just like I said, the 1 through 6 tend to be the ones that consistently perform the best, but I still use all the other ones. It really comes down to what's the interesting tidbits and stuff that I have to use in the copy. So if I have a really good fear-mongering conspiracy story, just because that's number 13 on the list, it's still probably going to crush. So it really depends on what you kind of have. Angela said, if you could just use one hook for the rest of your life for all your stuff, what would it be? It'd probably just be the problem solution. Just tap into whatever problems they're feeling, tell that with a story, and then provide a solution for it. It's probably the simplest one to do, but I would say routinely pumps out the best results. Any other questions before we wrap this up? Appreciate you guys all hanging around. It's a long, very long 3-hour call. I need to pee and I need to eat very badly. Awesome. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me if you have any follow-up questions. I'll try to get to those. I will send this out to you guys tomorrow along with the PDF. So you'll have the PDF to go over. You'll have all that to keep. So yeah, all that will be coming tomorrow. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Love that you showed up, hung around, and picked up this course. Hope it was really helpful for you. And we will talk soon.